like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, right guys, let her tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
As Zaz just mentioned during the Shadow Show, he is someone who, under all circumstances, refuses to look ridiculous, and he does not like that the Miami Heat have made him look ridiculous.
I hate looking ridiculous.
I have not looked up the stats, but now Duncan Robinson has gone to Detroit. Detroit is on the ascent. Detroit is a very good young team they can use when they've got an alleged gambling problem on their roster. They can use the shooting of Duncan Robinson. And I'm doing the eye test here. I've not looked at the numbers. Mike Ryan disputed this when I said it yesterday. Duncan Robinson is the best shooter in Heat history. Do I have that wrong?
You don't have that wrong.
Well, what are you going by? Are you going statistically, or are you going by...
I'm legitimately going by when he shoots, I think it's going in more than any other player who's ever shot a basketball for the Miami Heat. I haven't looked at any other numbers. It's simply based on when that person's shooting, do I believe it's going in more than at other times people have been wearing that uniform.
By that metric, Udonis Haslem, greatest shooter of all time in Heat history, because that little short corner J was always going in no matter what.
You start... I'll put Duncan second, but obviously Ray Allen is the top shooter. Just game 6, that shot, number 1 all time. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what numbers you say.
Oh, but that's a moment, though.
But it's just that's the shot. You think of Miami Heat shooters, Ray Allen. That's the answer.
Okay, so you also think then that LeBron is the greatest player in Miami Heat history, not Dwayne Wade.
That elbow jumper. You could talk me into that elbow jumper putting LeBron on the Mount Rushmore.
Because that's the same argument. LeBron's the best player in Heat history, not Dwayne Wade. If Ray Allen's best shooter in Heat history, not Duncan Robinson.
I see what you're doing there. I'm not going to play that game with you.
Where's James Posey on the list? Because I felt confident when James Posey had the ball.
But tippy-toe
it was probably
3.
the Sox, but I felt good about James Posey.
Do you mean Mike Miller?
No.
Because you say socks, like Mike Miller
No, he
was
had the
the
tall
shoeless one.
socks. James Posey had the
I thought you
super
said
tall
socks like he shot with
Come
socks.
on, man. Are you a Heat fan or not?
Do you feel like people
Join the
confuse
party.
James Posey and Mike Miller often?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get any other nominations from the entirety of anyone who has ever watched basketball that has James Posey as the best shooter in Heat history.
No.
You stumbled onto another Wild Billy Wednesday.
You guys don't know how to play this game.
Partners. It's about to get wild.
Stats be damned when James Posey had the ball, and I know I'm alone on this island.
That's what people say when they're wrong, by the way. Stats be damned.
Well, no. They also say what Chris says. I don't care what the numbers say. I don't care what anyone says. I'm right about that.
Well, you started with I didn't look at any of the numbers, bud. What's the difference there?
I admitted all of it.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
I just don't do it every single time with every argument. Usually my arguments have a little more information than that.
Can we put on the poll best Heat shooter of all time? Duncan Robinson, Ray Allen. You guys are not
Put
going to
Antoine Walker on there too.
Well,
I
James
felt
Posey,
good about
tippy-toe
that's the
3.
island I'm on, but I
Exactly
loved
right.
Antoine Walker.
What about the man with the golden arm?
I cannot believe the Jason Capono erasure.
That is a terrible nickname, by the way.
Awful.
The man with the golden arm.
I
Awful
loved that
nickname.
one, actually.
Eric Reed tried to get that off the ground.
Bit too wordy.
It is. Has a nickname ever worked that has that many words
It's a
in
sentence.
it? The man with the golden arm is a 6-word.
Also, do you feel like you shoot with your arm? Like
No.
you shoot with your hand, your
No,
wrist?
It was a truly terrible nickname. What did Capono? Get me the numbers officially. Just what are the numbers officially on 3-point shooting for Ray Allen, Duncan Robinson, and James Posey?
Well, I have the 3-point field goal percentage leaders in team history for Miami. Now, this isn't about volume. Jason Capono is at the top. He shot 49% from 3 as a member of the Miami Heat, which is insane. But if you want to look at Ray Allen and Duncan Robinson and compare them, their percentages are essentially identical. So Ray Allen in 2 years shot 39.8% from 3 for Miami. Over 7 years, it was 39.7%. for Duncan Robinson, but he did it on 7 3-point attempts per game, while Ray Allen did that on like 4 per game. So certainly the volume is different, but their minutes were the same. It's 26 minutes per game for Duncan, 26 minutes per game for Ray Allen. So they essentially played the same role on these two different teams.
Did you just say that Jason Capono shot 49% from 3 1 year? Has anyone...
Not 1 year, as a member of the Miami Heat for
Well, he
however
played
long
2
that
years,
was.
I think it was 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, the reason he didn't play more shooting that well is because he couldn't guard anybody. If you think Tyler Hero couldn't guard anybody, Capono had feet made of cement that he lifted off the ground to shoot that 3. But I can't imagine that anyone has ever shot a higher percentage than that playing for a basketball team from 3.
He did it on 2 attempts per game.
Yeah, it was 1 for 2.
That's
1
amazing.
for 2.
But still,
Stats be damned, though. We're having that conversation.
well, he won the
No, we need all
3-point.
the stats.
He'd be taking 15 threes a game in the modern NBA.
He won the 3-point competition, so it's not
Twice.
it's not just that he was taking 2 3-pointers a game, but do we have a lot of players ever who have shot better than 50% from 3? Because off the top of my head, I cannot remember seeing a stat line that has somebody. Did Kyle Korver shoot over 50?
I think Tim Legler led the league one time shooting over 50%, believe it or not.
In the 2006 and 7 season, so he joined for the championship team year 1. He only took actually 1 3-pointer per game, shot 39.6%. But in the 2006 and 7 season, on 3 attempts per game, he shot 51.4% from 3.
He was a starter on that team.
So Zaslow knows his basketball, and if you were listening last night to ESPN Overnight Game Night with Zaslow and Norris Cole,
Yeah. Couple champs chopping it up.
Zaz's power went down, and I felt for the poor producer
man.
who had to go the rest of the way with Norris Cole when Zaz's power went out in his house.
Oh man, so you got to understand, like I'm paired with Norris Cole, okay, which was fun. I'd never worked with him before, but like he's not a radio host. He's essentially like an analyst, you know, and the show's going great, okay. Literally 90 seconds. It's almost 1 a.m. 90 seconds left in the show. My power goes out in the house. It started to storm. Power goes out in the house. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm obviously kicked off the show. And for the final 90 seconds, our producer Josiah did an excellent job. He had to drive the show. With
90
Norris
seconds.
Cole.
I mean, that's nothing.
I
thought you were
know.
talking about 90 minutes.
At
90
1
seconds.
a.m.
Yeah.
also.
But then I started thinking, well, you know, I don't know if you understand how time zones work. But
I
that's
don't.
10 p.m. in the
Yeah.
West Coast.
Okay.
All right. That's the way it goes. It's 3 hours behind.
Still 90 seconds on the West Coast, though.
Right. Like, but then I was just thinking, oh my God, what if it happened 90 minutes left? Oh, that'd have been bad.
How's the family van doing for Norris Cole? That was his thing.
Right. I
You
think it's
didn't
still
ask?
parked underneath in the arena.
Really?
I think so.
They kept that?
Oh, yeah, for
They
a while.
kept his
for
family
sure.
van. It's just parked in the arena?
Yeah.
Why? How do they get around?
I don't know if it was still functional.
Billy, always great at asking the questions no one can answer.
Sorry.
I'm trying to find a longer nickname than the one we said before. Charles Barkley, round mound to rebound. This is hard.
That's quick, though. That's round mound.
That's
Yeah.
a good one, though, and it rhymes, right? If it was the man with the golden arm and somehow there was a farm in there somewhere, farm and arm, if you got a rhyme somewhere, but it hurts to have. What is there a longer nickname that has worked than the mound round of mound of rebound?
You all right?
Yeah, sorry.
Just want to make sure.
I appreciate the help with that. What are the details, Billy, since you want to know so much about the Norris Cole van? I don't know anything about the Norris Cole van.
It was a giant thing during the Heat's championship run. The Norris Cole family van was a thing that was outside of the arena.
They
because
allowed
that was,
fans to come by and sign it.
That
every
was
game,
the
right?
story about how it was that he would get to like all the games and stuff growing up. So they brought the family van there. The fans signed. It was a big rallying thing around this Heat team. I'm surprised you guys don't know about this family van. It's big Heat Nation over here. Don't know about James Posey and his socks. Don't know about the family van.
We do know about James Posey and his socks. We
Called
don't
him Mike
know
Miller.
We don't know that James Posey is the shooter that Ray Allen and Duncan Robinson is. We got Jeremy heightened enough that he started a sentence with dude, which is the first sign in a debate that someone is unraveling.
Is that like a sign of an
right.
aggression from him?
I mean, that's basically him pulling a knife.
It's like mother effer.
It's when Jeremy hits you with a dude to start a sentence, it's like someone else shivving you in prison.
The question was, do you want Porzingis? That's what he answered, dude.
Well, he's right to be upset by the fact that I tried 3 different times to point out, hey, Lillard waived is something I wasn't expecting to see together, and everyone wanted to talk about something else, including the championship fortunes of the Atlanta Hawks in what you guys keep calling a wide open East, as if the Cavs don't exist.
The Cavs are frauds, Dan. We know that.
Okay, but the Hawks aren't?
The Hawks could be interesting.
Okay.
Could be interesting is the way we all like to analyze everything. Is, oh, there's something new. Wow,
That's
maybe
right.
that'll be good, and it's never good.
This is one of the things that has corrupted and contaminated all offseason talk is that the Hawks will always win the press conference in the offseason. And what? And the fan base wants simply change. The fan base in Miami doesn't want to keep going with a roster that they know is not good enough, and the roster looks and feels stale. I will not believe that this is what will head into the playoffs next year.
Playoffs. It better not head into the regular season. I mean, head into playoffs. Do you want anybody in the stands? Like I think they're at kind of a tipping point now when it comes to the fan base where there's going to be a reaction, a tangible reaction in the stands this year if the team looks like this again. I mean, you think the building's going to be packed on Wednesday night against Charlotte if they keep this roster?
That's why we were saying that they should get Kevin Durant, because like he would be a draw even if he's on a bad team, and then you have him down the road, or he's part of the Heat family, he's part of the Heat culture, he's part of the history of this team, knowing that they probably weren't going to build a championship contender, but at least you bring in this memorable person in NBA history to be part of your team for a season.
We're all going to look really silly if he makes a move for Giannis.
Not Zaz. Zaz will not look silly. There's no circumstance under which Zal can. Zaz will not look silly. I
hate looking silly, and that's the part that bothers me most about what's going on with the Heat here, because I have the confidence. I'm very confident. Everybody knows that about me. And I don't want them to make me look stupid. Right now, I feel like I look stupid, and I'd like them to do something.
Chris Cody, I felt that we as a show looked stupid for a number of different reasons yesterday, but one of them was you were out, your father said out loud, and I don't know what to believe anymore with your family, because you guys hid from me for 3 decades that Uncle Mike exists and has one eye. Greg Cody claimed on the show yesterday that he's a handyman. And I'm like, if Chris were here, there's no way he'd get away with that. I know Greg Cody, and unless he's decided to do something in the last 10 years I've never known him to do, which is simply learn, because he doesn't like to learn. Greg Cody's allergic to learning. Doesn't want any part of it. So him being a handyman or identifying as a handyman, I thought was a bold-faced lie. But I didn't have anyone here who could have questioned it.
Yeah, it's crazy that the bit with him, like with me and my brother, our whole life is he thinks he's everything. He thinks he's handy. He thinks he's Salt Life. He thinks he's a country soul. He thinks he's a reggae guy. He thinks he's everything. So it's just, yes, this is not surprising. Did he claim something about his mailbox?
No.
That he said, I think he tried to put up a mailbox recently. So I'm trying to. What did he say that was handy?
He said he was going to have a competition with Billy in which they tried to make some sort of furniture.
I think we settled on a table, but we'd have to get the lumber.
I would take Billy.
Thank you.
I could see Billy.
The thing about being a handyman, like if you're Greg, is you really just have to believe in your abilities to do it.
It's not really true.
Not true in any way.
It is true.
That's how you end up with a handyman with one hand.
That's a stupid thing to say.
That's not a stupid thing to say. You know who stops you from doing things the most? You. If you say that I can't build this table, guess what? You're never going to build that table. If you say I can, you can build one. I mean, it may, wobble from side to side, but you'll figure it out eventually. There's a bunch of I can't guys in here today.
Well, the power of positive thinking. Yeah, when Michael Jordan gives the graduation speech and says you can all be me, he's lying. The power of belief? No, there's fast twitch muscle.
No one should believe in themselves.
That's required.
The High Ayatollah of Slamola for Larry Nance, Sr.
That's bull. Never heard that.
Wait a minute.
Not a nickname you could have today, right?
Well, not a nickname you should have had then either.
Offensive that Jeremy even
Different
said
time,
it.
though.
The Ayatollah of Slamola.
I think we're fine.
The Houdini of the hardwood, Bob Cousy.
I like that one.
It rolls right off the tongue.
4 words. The man with the golden arm.
The owl without a vowel, Bill Milkvy, MLKVY.
I like that one, though.
Was there a question mark in his last name?
There is for me.
I think Greg said his dad was a carpenter.
He
is
was.
What happened,
Wild
right?
Bill. See, that's why I think my dad thinks he's handy.
Yeah,
his dad was.
His dad was a carpenter. He
That's
wanted
like a
to,
gene that gets passed down.
I'm
to
trying
you.
to think what my dad has built.
He wanted to build. The story was he wanted to build a table around a tree, and then Uncle Richard, I think it was, he said was a know-it-all. And Uncle Richard came over and was constantly giving him tips on how it is that he should build said table. And he was annoyed because Uncle Richard was telling him, you need to use this corner, this or that, whatever. And then at the end, he ended up telling us, well, when you build something, you need to use this. And we realized Uncle Richard actually taught Greg a lesson that day that he still carries with him today.
Uncle Richard and my dad had a funny, tenuous relationship. I actually have a funny story. After Uncle Richard died.
What was that word?
Tenuous?
That's not a word.
To play on.
It's not.
You know what I
word.
meant.
What do you mean? It's a.
There's a lot of
play on?
tension in their relationship.
Yeah, tenuous.
Tenuous.
I didn't know what you meant.
Contentious.
Contentious. There it is.
No.
See, everyone knew what I
We
meant.
can't say that first part.
I didn't know.
So this is actually a good story. Stay focused here. When Uncle Richard died, they were having the post-funeral thing at Aunt Bonnie's house. And my dad, who I had a nice, a weird relationship, a tenuous relationship with Uncle Richard. And one of their songs was the Beach Boys, one of the happy Beach Boys songs. So my dad.
Are there sad Beach Boys songs?
I don't
Put it
know.
on the poll at
Oh,
Le Batard
yeah, dude.
Show. Do you think of anything sad when you think of the Beach Boys?
So my dad, thinking of Uncle Richard, was playing a song that they connected of. It was a Beach Boys song. But visually, the optics, so after the funeral, my dad's driving to Aunt Bonnie's house for like the post-funeral thing, and Aunt Bonnie's brother is out front. And my dad rolls up to the post-funeral party blasting a Beach Boys song. So the visual of my dad, like happy song,
Windows down?
like windows down, like jamming to Beach Boys. So that he went up to my dad and was like, "Why are you? This is a sad time. Why are you?
Disrespectful. That
Why are
is.
you rolling up?" And my dad had to be like, "No, we connected over the Beach Boys. So this was actually me paying tribute, but just not a good look."
He should have just said, "Why can't I have an enjoyable car ride still?"
Put it on the. Can you show like? Are you allowed to jam out after a funeral?
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Can you roll away from the funeral with the music too loud the happy music too loud in your car? Jeremy, you made a face on our lack of Beach Boys knowledge. Is there something horrible in the past of Brian Wilson or one of the Beach Boys?
Yeah, Brian Wilson was like extremely depressed. Pet Sounds is one of the most beautifully tragic albums ever written, maybe the best album ever written, including the song I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, which not only is this self-reflective, sad mental health song, but it's actually Kevin Love's favorite Beach Boys song.
I'm pretty sure he rolled up to "Sitting on Top of the World." Like it was like.
Yeah, I think of the Beach Boys, though, as all Surfin' USA type of happy songs and just bounce around. But you're right. There is a
The real
history of
heads now.
sadness, so we need a different question. I do think of Beach Boys music as being happy, though. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you think of Beach Boys music as being happy?
I like the idea of Greg pulling up to the funeral with Surfing USA blasting out his car.
Oh, he's just wildly inappropriate, and then will defend his action no matter what, and will take several days before he concedes.
The thing about it is, if he's telling the truth, it's a play. He's good. But Uncle Richard not around anymore. There's no one really to verify that they connected over Beach Boys. So my dad may have just been jamming out and then needed a cover.
He's not a handyman, though, and he does have Dunning-Kruger the same way that Stugotz does, where he just delusionally thinks he's good at every single thing, even though he's 70 years old. But you guys are reminding me of the greatest thing that my father taught me around handyman stuff, which is have friends who can fix things, because that's all I saw in my childhood. My brother used to tell the story of the scarring of being a Boy Scout, and my father helped him with the car, and as soon as the race started, the wheels fell off, and the thing just hit the ground like as a block of wood and he had to quit. He had to leave the Boy Scouts in disgrace.
Had to leave the Scouts?
Yeah, well, because you can imagine, right? You're sitting there, you're 36 years old, you let go of the car, and then the wheels fall off. How embarrassing.
Contentious.
How you feeling about that?
It's going to sit with me for a while.
Contentious.
See,
Why?
I was looking at you guys like, what are you guys talking about? This is clearly a word. Contentious.
I like the idea of Lebo in a Boy Scouts uniform.
It didn't really fit, right?
Leave the Scouts in disgrace.
Yeah, well, my brother ended up doing all the sports things with us, even though he was fast as the running back. He'd just keep moving his head around because the way the wind whistled through his ear hole. So we'd snap the ball, and my brother'd just be standing there in the backfield, making his ear hole make whistling noises, and as the play that's designed for him goes in the other direction. He'd also stop for like a 4-leaf clover if he was in the open field.
Do you think he takes off the patches from the scout outfit when he leaves in disgrace? Do you have to leave it behind?
They rip it off you as you walk out the door.
I feel like just the car falling apart was disgrace enough. You walk out of the Scouts never to return, just ashamed of your father. Embarrassed because your father isn't good at fixing things. My father didn't know how to put up a painting. My father didn't know how to put up a picture.
Wasn't he an engineer?
Yes. He ran a fiberglass plant. Like he knew scientific things. He just didn't know how to do anything around the house.
That's like the one thing I can do is put up a painting.
Nothing.
Isn't it funny that you have these sets of Cuban men that grew up at the same time, had the same experience, yet there's a section of them who can fix anything do anything, and there's another section that is equally as large that can't do anything.
But they were friends with the people who can.
Exactly. The problem is our dads and our grandfathers were on that side of the line.
Your dad can't fix anything.
My dad can't fix neither can my grandfather. He used to wear business shoes to play catch.
That's how it gets handed down, though. When your grandpa can't fix, neither can your father. That's why I can't fix. None of these people, the Le Batards, can't fix anything. The women can. The men cannot.
That's how I was about to say. My mother-in-law, I believe the last time I had a flat tire, my mother-in-law changed it, which is not a fun sentence to say.
My wife does that stuff around our house.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Would you be embarrassed? Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Would you be embarrassed if you had to call your mother-in-law to fix your flat
It was
tire?
not a good.
Don't you guys want to know how to do things, though?
I know how to. I just don't want to screw it up. So I'm like, if I
screw it
the
on.
hardest part about changing a tire is knowing where to put the thing to lift the car up.
The jack.
I don't want to bend my leg. I don't want to
You don't want to dent the undercarriage.
Right. It's like which I may have done in my, when I was like 17,
We all
18.
have.
You try to lift a car, all of a sudden the car is just denting and not lifting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
The jack. One of your father's favorite sentences when he says there's a fact.
Once again,
Jack.
you knew what I was talking about.
I do, but your trouble with words is disconcerting today. Billy did know what you were talking about, and Billy did have it right when he said to the group of us, don't you guys want to learn anything?
You can learn how to fix anything on YouTube now. Like, it's incredible. I went into my car my previous car, RIP, was totaled. But I went in there and I fixed the thing that's on the spark plug, or not the spark plug, I guess on the battery, the mount, because it was saying that I had it said that I had a bad battery, but I didn't have to go in there. I had to change it. Just watch on YouTube. It was like this thing. I ordered it on Amazon. It was there.
Cabin filters you can change on YouTube in 2 seconds.
Dude, cabin filters.
What a
Can I tell
scam.
you something right now? And I'm sorry to all our mechanics and mechanical scammers out there, but if you go to a mechanic's or a garage or whatever, and they tell you we can fix your air filters, we can fix your cabin filter, and there's 2 filters, it's going to cost you like $250 because that's what they'll tell you. Like, oh wow, like that sounds like a good deal. It is absolutely not. You can buy those 2 pieces for like $30 combined probably, and change them in 10 minutes.
And then I can stare at my engine for like 3 hours, being like, "Where does this go?"
No, you just go on YouTube, you find a video, you're done in 5 minutes.
With the internet, we trust the internet on you. Like, what if I was like a terrible person, I would just put up a bunch of how-to videos, doing it incorrectly.
There's all kinds of accounts on Twitter where the blue check marks are how about?
I'm going to start tricking people.
How do you know you're not getting the NBA Centel version of fixing cars on YouTube?
Before you put this in, you spit on it.
Okay, I have fixed enough things with the help of YouTube that there isn't a sinister plot conspiracy of people who are pranking.
I don't know that.
Man, I want to be a fly on the wall for
There's
that.
no Barry McCockiner of spark plugs.
I don't know
Okay,
that.
There's a nice space for that though.
You're too lazy to change your tire. You're not going to spend the time making videos to trick people into
All right, if
breaking
you want to
their
change
cars.
your tire first, roll it down a hill just to make sure it's got good treading, and then you just see some idiot like.
I am embarrassed by how this show has talked about all of this. I want to apologize on behalf of the manly men in the audience who are indeed handymen, who are hearing everything we're saying and
speak for me.
hearing a show that can't be bothered to even check out YouTube's quick explanation on how to fix things.
Now we trust the internet.
I would also like to apologize to the women in the audience who are also handy and think it's a little lame
praised-
of us
Wait.
to think it's pathetic that
You said
we
pathetic.
can't do things.
We said Chris's mother-in-law can do things, and that we can. I am specifically warding off the judgment of men against men for not being handymen when Greg Cody alleges that he's a handyman when I know him to not be.
He at least tries. You guys aren't even putting in the effort to try to fix things.
I would be, if we had some sort of Olympics on fixing things, I would finish last. I would be the worst of all of us, but not a lot worse than some of you.
You're thinking a new edition of gold, silver, bronze, or did not podium today?
Yes, let's. Well,
Good game
are we-
yesterday.
are we-
Tony loved it.
Another wordy one.
Well, do you think I've heard accusations around the office, Billy, that you're of the belief that Tony is now making parenting decisions simply to spite you?
Yeah, I think last week Tony was in a patented pickle.
You know, they sell pickles in my movie theater.
Really? How much?
It's $2.99.
Is that so? Well, I think that last week Tony was in a patented pickle, and we discussed it on air, where we said it seemed as though
For it to be a pickle, Billy, not to interrupt you.
Well, you
For
are.
it to be a pickle, it had to be something that is a rock and a hard place, and I'm kind of stuck in the middle of trying to decide. This was a very easy decision for me.
Yeah. I think that last week, for those of you who are catching up on the show, last week, Tony, congratulations, had
Thank you, buddy.
a child. And it turns out his child was born 6 months ago. And we were discussing whether or not Tony would be someone who celebrates half birthdays. And
Which
we
I'm
kind
not.
of got the feeling that Tony might celebrate half birthdays. Tony, one time, if I remember correctly, had a party at a brewery for a dog, and we were kind of like, what's going on here?
A dirt day.
So he had a whole party for a dog
dog
at a
birthday
brewery.
was not for
he
me.
He invited all of us. We're like, no, thank you, Tony. That's not what we're going to do here. So, anywho, Tony has a child, and half birthday was coming up. So last week we were discussing whether or not Tony would have a half birthday.
Is a child?
So here's the pickle that Tony was in. Do I celebrate my child and give my child lasting memories via photographs that they will see years down the road, because a child at 6 months won't remember anything? But do I celebrate my child? Do I do this for the family? Do I do this for my wife? Or do I prove Billy wrong and not throw a half birthday for my child and do the good parenting thing and do nice things for my family and my wife and everyone involved? And I was made aware that Tony's wife wanted to have a half birthday party. No. And Tony said, no, we're not having a half birthday party now because of the conversation at work last week. So Tony found himself in a pickle, and he sided proving me wrong over the happiness and joy of his wife and family.
So it wasn't a full-blown birthday party. My wife wanted to get a cupcake to take pictures and stuff. And
That's
I
a
said,
half birthday. Yeah.
Not happening.
You said not happening. For what reason?
Because we don't need the constructs of, get a picture with a cupcake, it's your half birthday. No. It's 6 months, we celebrate it, we move on. That's it.
You put a cupcake in front of them, you see what they do with it. They like poke it.
No,
Yeah.
because then she puts it in her mouth, she can't eat
They
that
do
yet.
the thing. They put their feet in it. It makes a giant mess, and you're watching. You're like,
They start
what
to
are
grab
we
their hair
doing? This is a disaster. And they're like, it's so cute.
Avoided.
And then a year later, you look at it, you're like, it was kind of cute. I was getting upset about nothing.
So, Dan, I looked at my wife and I said, no, not going to happen. But I was looking at her, but I was really looking at Billy. Like Billy's form took over my wife, and I was like,
he's right.
nah.
Then you're making parenting
Spiting
decisions
me.
to
Of course.
spite
me.
Billy. Okay.
absolutely.
When really, I forgot that even happened until we came in today, and you're like, guess what? Didn't have a half birthday. I'm like, I
'Cause it
didn't
was
even give that
yesterday.
a second thought until today.
Well, now you'll never forget.
Yeah, you're ruining a child's life to spite me. Congrats.
Thank you.
It will be wonderful years from now when Tony is alone in sad dad village because his wife and the child have left, and he's just smiling because he's like, but I did spite Billy.
I got him.
I didn't have a half birthday. He thought I was going to have a half birthday, and I did not have a half birthday.
Imagine a crazy twist. Never mind.
So this is from Louis Riddick. Good work there, Billy.
Well, because it puts all of us in a bad spot. But I was going to say, imagine a crazy twist or something happens to my family, and then Tony's family leaves him, and they end up with me. After he was making all these decisions, breaking them up to spite me.
What a plot
And then
twist.
I win at the end.
So wait, so something happens to your family. All of my family goes to live with you, and now you become their father.
So it's not just his wife.
I'm the new daddy.
So, okay.
I'll fix all the problems that you have because your old daddy made poor decisions to spite me.
So many half birthdays around here.
We celebrate quarter birthdays in this house. Get used to it.
So just to be clear, what just happened was that you didn't offer for Tony and the audience the mere possibility of you stealing his wife
And family.
But his is going somewhere else too.
You took his wife and 6-month-old, and you just said, "I'd like to add everything to my family. I don't want to eliminate my children or my wife."
Are you all living together?
Yeah,
Like this
it's
is your new
everybody.
Well,
sibling?
no, in this horrible situation, which none of us want to happen, something happened to my family, so I was there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to leave my family for Tony's family. I'm sure they're lovely, but I love my family more than his.
No, I thought
for
you
now.
were going to have both families. I thought Tony was
No,
going to be
no,
alone.
I can't handle any more kids.
There are different
honestly.
wings of the house.
Plus the dogs too.
I like it better as you just stole Tony's family and now he's lonely, but he has the victory over you on half birthday.
Oh, he's got to celebrate all the birthdays, and I don't have to do anything.
And he's got that victory forever. The victory.
Play PS5 finally.
You may be having a great time with your wife and his wife and your child.
No,
your
something
children.
happened to my family. It's a horrible
No,
situation.
no, I
We
know.
don't want this.
No, you've made it that. I've made it something different. I prefer you stealing the entirety of his family.
But you understand why I said never mind now, right?
Well, the part I don't understand is, as a professional broadcaster, why you start to say something and then offer it to the audience and then pull it back. It's not because I don't understand why you didn't say that you were thinking about stealing Tony's wife and child.
I wasn't thinking about it, just something that may happen based on the parenting decisions that he is making to spite me. It'd be the most ironic thing, I think. I don't know how irony works. The most ironic thing if he's trying to spite me, and what ends up happening is I end up winning.
I want to put in front of you this tweet from Louis Riddick.
What do you have to say?
We have a problem with him?
It felt like it. It felt like your tone suggested that there was a problem with Louis Riddick. What did he have to say, as if he had said the wrong thing?
No. I could be the judge of that.
You are a judge, a journalist, a lawyer, a doctor, and a race war expert.
Yep.
So here is Louis Riddick on the Dolphins after they lured Darren Waller out of retirement, something I evidently was more excited about than just about anyone on earth, including Darren Waller yesterday. Dolphins are the very definition of uncertainty going into 2025, has zero idea what this team will look like, play like, come together like, chemistry-wise. Zero. Fascinating to me.
Sounds like the most exciting Dolphin team in my lifetime.
Is this team fascinating? Is it what's fascinating about a team that hasn't won a playoff game in a quarter century and now has just a bunch of question marks and whatever players you've seen be great in a Dolphin uniform so far are not on the in the prime of their career, I guess, outside of Tua.
I think what he's telling you there is you look at it on paper, and certainly there's a lot of talent on both sides of the football. So, hey, they could be really good. Or they could be this year's total hot mess. They could be like the worst team in the league, and just everything goes wrong.
This is just frustrating because we had like a 2-year stretch, a year and a half stretch of being good.
Yeah.
Like it took so long. We finally got there.
I like trying this.
I was like, we have a good team. And now it's gone again. And now everyone is back to just thinking we're a joke. And it's like, we had a few injuries to our defensive line. I know we made some trades, but it's like the team's not that different, actually, that it was a few years ago.
But you said they were good, and they weren't.
They were, though.
Right, they're not that different. Like, they weren't good last year.
They were interesting, but they didn't win a playoff game. Like
because they got injured at the end of their good season 2 years ago. They got battered at the end. Who was that old defensive lineman from the Chiefs they signed? Like Houston, they signed for that playoff game against the Bills. That team going into that year was good on both sides of the ball. They got battered with injuries at the end of the season, and it all fell apart. And it just stinks because it seems like other teams have injuries and then get back to being good. And it seems like the Dolphins were good for like one season, got a ton of injuries, and then just can't get back there.
The teams that are good tend to be teams that are good even if they have injuries in that sport. Like
that's fair. No depth on that team.
I understand what you're saying. It's a perfectly logical explanation for how it is the blueprint exploded on a win-now franchise. They started the season having lost whatever they were, 9-2 or whatever it is.
We can agree it ended with the loss on Monday Night Football to Tennessee. That was the beginning of the end of everything.
It just always ends in December around here in this century. But what Riddick is saying about the Dolphins as an entity is true, right? Mm-hmm. Because everyone is looking at the Dolphins and saying, well, if at quarterback, you have the greatest of injury risks that will obviously detonate anything that you were planning in terms of team building. Then, of course, you're a bit of a mystery. But he's doing that because of the Darren Waller signing, right? Because nobody knows what that is. You can't have any idea what that is when the last 3 years have just been body problems and head problems.
Oh, I think it's all of it because in the span of the 24 hours, you have a team that brought in Minkah Fitzpatrick and also traded for Darren Waller, two very big names, and it's still like, I don't know what this team is.
You need Phillips and Chubb, right? That's like their defensive line has to be what it was a couple years ago, or else it's just if Chubb. If they're not what they were, they're not going to be a good team. That's it.
How about their offense being what it was a couple years ago? Because it feels like that kind of got found out, and everybody's like, oh, what do we do now? We can't throw over the middle.
How about this one? How about in 25 years you keep using draft picks on offensive linemen, and some of them can block? Ben Solak has tweeted after the Waller trade, quote, I am grotesquely fascinated by the 2025 Miami Dolphins. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Are you grotesquely fascinated by the 2025 Dolphins?
Waller's a guy that you could see getting to camp and not making it out of camp, or also oh wow, he's still got something left in the tank, and then he's a contributor, right? You have absolutely no idea. I think yesterday, most people, aside from the very optimistic Dolphins fans, were kind of this is kind of a weird one here. What do they think that they're going to get out of him? He hasn't been that productive in a number of years, but maybe now his body's healed. Maybe he'll be the guy that's 32, 33 that comes back and is going to play again, and he'll be fine because he's been able to rest for a couple years. But also, if he doesn't make it out of camp, I don't think anyone would be that shocked, right?
But Mike McDaniel's probably pitching him, you'll be Jonnu Smith, right?
Mike McDaniel is on the hottest of seats, is he not?
The hottest?
Not the hottest. They could be hotter.
If the Dolphins do not, I'm trying to think of what is viewed as a success for him this season.
Win a playoff game.
Yeah, but if he wins a playoff game, he's safe, he's good.
Yeah. They haven't done it in 25 years.
Yeah, but even winning a playoff game, I feel like with this roster and the fact that they're aging, you've wasted Tyreek Hill. You didn't get out of Tyreek Hill what you wanted to get out of Tyreek Hill.
I don't know. Show up in a big game.
I think if this team is it sounds terrible, and I don't want this to happen, but I feel like if they just get back to being good in the regular season, get to the playoffs, and lose again, I think he might be safe.
My apologies for spending this much time on a loser regional team that isn't interesting in the offseason except for doing things that people are like, huh? Where it's not interesting because they're getting better, it's interesting just because you have no idea.
What was it? They were grotesquely interesting.
We also do that with the Heat, though. Like they're by record a losing team. They're 37-45.
Yeah,
Losers.
but they've in the last 5 years they've been to the championship, and in the last 20 years they took this city from the Dolphins because of the amount of winning that Dwayne Wade did. This franchise, since you've been an adult, Billy, this franchise hasn't won a playoff game. It is a laughingstock nationally.
Yeah, but if they win a playoff game, they have the city back. Like they have leased the city to the other teams. People are dying to get back on a good Dolphins
Do you know
team.
how absurd it is what I'm saying, though? You didn't have a driver's license the last time the Miami Dolphins won a playoff game.
Who was the youngest here since the Dolphins won?
I was 5 years old. I was 5 the last time they won a playoff
All right,
game.
so you have never seen them
My
win a
entire
playoff game.
lifetime, they've been mediocre.
You've never seen them win a playoff game. Then.
Yeah, they're a mediocre franchise.
Zaslow mentioned earlier the idea that next year will be the first in a long time that he believes the Miami Heat attendance streak will be in jeopardy. Can you guys find for me? I believe the Miami Heat have one of the longest sold-out streaks anywhere in sports.
Yeah.
I think it's the longest in basketball.
I think it goes back to 2010, I think.
What happened that year? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's where that started. That would probably happen in a lot of cities.
But it continued a couple bad years in between.
I know, but it started in 2010, and some of the numbers since then, I think, have been a little bit suspicious, where I don't feel like the arena is actually
You feel
sold
like there's been
out.
some empty seats?
But it looks like they needed to keep their streak alive. So I don't know if I guess I'm accusing them of fudging numbers, but do you believe that sold out streak is true? That they've been actually sold out all of those games since 2010? Billy is shaking his head.
No one believes that that's true. If you're a reasonable person, there's plenty of tickets available for every game. They're not sold out every game. This is just David Sampson attendance numbers for the Miami Heat.
I don't feel comfortable totally making that accusation, even though I know sports teams do that all the time. But in Miami, I do have general questions. If you've sold out for 15 years at a sports event, whether or not that can ever be real.
I don't understand. So you're telling me that they can not be sold out and they could just say, another sellout.
Well,
Yes.
that's Sampson said they were always lying about the numbers. But
Right, but Samson was never able to say we're sold out.
That is correct. The thing that makes some of this difficult in this sports town is the last game that the Dolphins did play in the playoffs wasn't on television locally because it wasn't sold out in time. So there was the last playoff game the Miami Dolphins played
Lamar Smith game.
did not air locally because it didn't sell out.
I drove to Orlando to watch the game.
Did you really?
Yep. I was in school at that time, but I was home from school, and so I went back early to watch the game.
You just drove outside. How
Yeah.
far out? Is it 3.5 hours out that you have to drive for the local? How far out do you have to drive in order to get the local broadcast when it's been blacked out locally?
I don't remember, but I was like, all right, I guess we're driving to Orlando today to watch the Dolphins.
I thought Orlando was like the place. I thought the Orlando line was where it is
Maybe.
that you could go see a Dolphin game. That
Great
was
game.
back there.
Worth the drive.
Blacked
You had to
out.
be able to see it in like Vero Beach or something, a couple hours away.
I am glad that Zaslow's here as both judge and journalist. He's also a doctor, a lawyer, and a race war expert. I'd like to get some rulings from him if I could as a judge in just a moment. We're going to get to that. But before we get to that, just the Damian Lillard thing from yesterday. It's an NBA executive has been quoted anonymously as saying that the Bucks are reckless, that bringing in that much Miles Turner for that much money is a super curiosity. What are you laughing about?
Because why are they reckless? Why aren't they allowed to do with their roster what they want? Why is it I mean, is it a bad choice? Yeah, probably, but it's reckless. Reckless for whom?
For the Bucks.
But it's their franchise. They can do what they want. It's their roster.
Reckless because you might lose Giannis because it's not the move that he wants?
Well, which do you think was more likely? Losing Giannis by bringing in Miles Turner or losing Giannis by not bringing in Miles Turner?
I would assume the reason that GM would consider this move or their flurry of moves reckless is the multiple years where when you don't really know how this is going to work out with the complementary pieces, where Giannis and sometimes was kind of playing center last year, so how does Miles Turner complement that? I can understand why a GM would look at what they're doing and go, whoa, you're committing a lot of money long-term to a roster that if you don't have Giannis is going to probably be a disaster.
But which is more reckless, doing this or not doing it and risking losing Giannis? That's more reckless.
Well, I would say and will say that the Bucks have more information than we do. And because they have more information than we do, I'm assuming that they're doing every possible thing to keep Giannis, or they already know that Giannis is gone. And so they're doing every possible thing to replace Giannis. Windhorse has said on television that if Halliburton hadn't gotten injured, the Pacers would have likely paid the tax and just tried to keep Miles Turner.
Dan, have you looked at the potential starting lineup for the Milwaukee Bucks next season? It is sad. Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Kyle Kuzma, Giannis, Miles Turner.
Portis is in there somewhere, right? No?
Six-man, and they might trade him too.
The thing that I wanted to talk about, though, from yesterday, and I still want to talk about, and for some reason I cannot keep the attention span engaged from our basketball fans. They keep changing the subject on me to the future transactions as opposed to what happened yesterday, which is I saw a headline that read Damian Lillard waived. And it was confusing to me. And I know he's injured, and I know that he's the age that he is, and I know that you've spent a year, more than a year, knowing that Damian Lillard isn't what he was. But to have a contract that has 2 years on it, $110 million, and to have the Bucks say, waived, we have no use for you, and the punctuation on this part of your career has been about as disastrous as it could be for someone who was in your position at the end in Portland. It's not something we've ever seen before, and for some reason around here yesterday, everybody wanted to skip right past it because of how quickly we will discard even the most famous of basketball players.
How about that trade was just 2 years ago, and literally all of the pieces in that trade are no longer with the teams they were traded to. Boston, Portland, Milwaukee, none of those guys are on those teams anymore. It's only 2 years ago.
The interesting part about that, because I remember what Woj wrote about Portland at the time and how it was a bit of poetry that was overwritten on behalf of, just people being fascinated by GM transactions. But the Miami Heat did not believe the Boston Celtics could get into the game and create a Drew Holiday package to get Drew Holiday from them, and didn't believe that anyone had a better offer than what they were offering for Damian Lillard. But once Boston offered Time Lord and the pieces that they offered that were broken, right? Brogdon, just a bunch of physical pieces that were broken, the Heat did concede by their assessment that the offer that Boston made was better than the offer that they had on the table. And so while we look at it in retrospect and say those were a bunch of damaged pieces, like Brogdon and Williams and those guys didn't end up being any good, the bet that Portland was making was that some of them would indeed be good. And the Heat's assessment on that was that the pieces that were offered there were better than what the Heat were offering.
But the Heat are likely saying to themselves right now, we're glad we didn't make the Lillard trade, right? I mean, even without the Lillard's going to miss most of next season, like even before that, they're glad they didn't make the trade, right?
They are, but I still want to simply concentrate as, Damian Lillard right now has to feel a bit broken and shell-shocked, physically broken, but shell-shocked that he's in a position that the last part of his career has been so mangled that his headline has the word waived in it. Like, the last time I remember sort of being Brandon Roy in terms of potential, where I'm like, oh, it's just all over. Like there's no chance that he recovers from any of that. I saw I got aggregated for saying that Lillard is now done as a star. Like that's the most obvious thing in the world, is it not? That he's done as a star, that person will never be an important player. Doesn't mean he can't make baskets, doesn't mean he won't be a role player, but leading a team, being a centerpiece on a team, or being the second best player on a team, that's not a good team. Like his movement is going to be affected by that injury in a way that has made the Bucks make the assessment that has no value, even though we have to pay it $50 million a year. Just go away. Just get off of the roster. I still can't really get my head around it, even understanding that this is a player that has been injured for a while. And I guess a lot of people have moved on from Damian Lillard before I moved on from Damian Lillard.
But you would acknowledge Damian Lillard yesterday, like even though maybe it was shocking originally when he finds out, wow, I'm getting waived, Damian Lillard was a big winner yesterday. Like a huge winner yesterday. I don't know if he got to a place where he liked Milwaukee, he adjusted to it, he was okay with being in Milwaukee, but his employer yesterday literally told him, here is all of your money, not a penny short, and guess what else? Go do whatever you'd like. We're not limiting the things you could do. Here is all of your money, and you can do whatever you want, which is essentially what he wanted 2 years ago, and what he wanted was to come to Miami. He didn't get what he wanted. Well, now you get all of the money and do whatever you want. Like, he was a big winner yesterday, Damian Lillard.
The Athletic reported that he was, quote, elated
I'm sure.
with what happened yesterday because of that exact thing. He gets all of his money, and now he can go choose wherever he wants to go. He can pick whatever contender he wants to play for. He was elated, is how they put it.
Also, Chris Haynes, though, reported that Giannis didn't like what they did yesterday, and we were talking about how you always have to go to the roots on who's reporting what and why something's being leaked. Chris Haynes is known as being Lillard's guy. He's the one who has perpetual access to Lillard. What did you make of the report that Giannis wasn't happy about what they did yesterday, trading for Miles Turner?
Not believable. It's just not. I mean, maybe Chris Haynes has bad information. Not believable. Like, Giannis is upset that in a year from now, he's not going to be able to play anymore with a 36-year-old coming off of an Achilles injury. Giannis upset about that?
Chris Haynes' information is rarely wrong. Like, this is not somebody whose information is disputed very often.
I would think if he got that inclination from whoever it would have been that's close to Giannis, it would be because he just didn't like how it was handled. Because the reports that are out there, including from Chris Haynes himself, are that Dame wanted to spend his time rehabbing in Portland so that he could be around his kids. We know his personal life has been a little wild in the last few years, and that was something he wanted to do, and apparently Bucks management was not happy about that, which is what facilitated this decision. And if Dame was caught off guard, I can understand Giannis at least looking at his ownership and front office and saying, like, man, I don't love the way you guys went about that with a guy who I like.
But then that's a super misleading headline then to say Giannis not happy with the way it went down.
I don't know that it was a headline. It was just a piece of the reporting.
It could be more macro, too. The way that they stretched and waived it, all of a sudden you got money on your books for the next 5 years where you're trying to get pieces to be a contender, and you're looking around saying, we're paying how much for Miles Turner? What his original salary is plus what we waived Dame for? Like, that all adds up.
That's the recklessness that you're talking about, right? There's a tweet here from Yassi Guzlan, and it says the Damian Lillard trade had risk, and the worst-case scenario ends up happening. They're down Drew Holiday, an unprotected first, 2 swaps, and now they have to pay Lillard $22.5 million a year not to play for them for the next 5 seasons.
But that is an effect of today's NBA, where every one of these teams that has a star player is afraid. They're afraid of one day their star player coming into the office and saying, I'm not happy. And so as a result, this is the kind of stuff you have to do, because it doesn't matter if a guy's signed to a contract. You're a free agent every single year. That right there is the effect of today's NBA.
If I'm Lillard, I'd Bobby Bonilla it. Give me 5 over the next 20.
Let's put together the top 5 deferred contracts in the history of sports at Le Batard Show. Jeremy, do that quickly. I'm going to test you quickly. I'm not even going to give you very much time to do it quickly. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is every basketball player in the world a free agent while under contract?
I saw a clip of Steve Phillips explaining why, because I guess he was at the center of the contract negotiation there with Bobby Bonilla as to why it is that they did this deal with him where he would make all of that money. And it should surprise no one. It involved Bernie Madoff. So they were like, well, our thinking is that we owed him like $6 million, and we had this buyout that we'd pay him $29 over 30 years, and we had invested a lot of money with Bernie Madoff. So we thought if we gave Bernie this $6 million, we're going to make $100 million, whatever. We're going to make so much money that this is going to be financially such a great deal for us because Bernie's going to make us so much more money that the fact that we're dragging this out for 30 years isn't really going to affect the Wilpons at all. So this is a great idea. And they're like, wow. And he's like, you're welcome, Dodgers, for the idea.
That's exactly what happened. The Wilpons did have a relationship with Madoff where they thought they'd get more money, and Bobby Bonilla was so terrified of going broke that he said, just give me $1 million a year for 20 years so that I can know that I'm going to have money coming in 2025. Is today Bobby Bonilla Day?
Yes, yesterday, yeah. I don't understand, though. What would have happened to the Wilpons if they just gave Bobby Bonilla the $6 million they owed him? They couldn't afford to just give him the $6 million.
No, they wanted more. It was greedy. They can afford to give him the $6 million, but they can make more money on that.
With Madoff.
I've found
they
some
couldn't
of
do
that.
both?
They wanted more. What do you mean they couldn't do both? Yes, they can do both, but they could make more money with Bonilla's money
And Madoff.
than they could just giving that money
What
to
could go wrong?
Bonilla. Right, nothing would ever go wrong there. You just give it all. Everyone knows Bernie Madoff, totally solid. Don't have to worry about anything. Top 5 deferred contracts in the history of sports. Any OLIs, or are we going straight to number 5?
Well, I just have baseball contracts here, but they're all pretty brutal. So number 5, Max Scherzer. He signed a 7-year, $210 million deal with the Nationals in 2015, but $105 million was deferred. So he makes $15 million a year from the Nats through 2028. Of course, he plays for the Blue Jays. Yeah. Number 4.
Wasn't he getting checks from like 3 teams at one point in time?
Brett Saberhagen.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Did you know that Scherzer was a Blue Jay? Did you know Verlander was a Giant?
Brett Saberhagen retired in 2001, but he receives $250,000 a year from the Mets. It started in 2004. It'll end in 2029.
Oh, wow. So this was another one that the Wilpons did. Same thing, but Bonilla's the only one who gets stuck with it, and Saberhagen skates?
I guess the difference of $1 million versus $250,000, and Bonilla, it's July 1st. But number 3, Manny Ramirez. In 2001, he signed an 8-year, $160 million deal with the Red Sox. They deferred $32 million over 16 years. So he's received $2 million every year in that span, starting in 2011, ending in 2026.
I heard Bobby Bonilla say that he gets more texts on Bobby Bonilla Day than his birthday.
Yeah.
Purely for the money, number 2, Shohei Ohtani. So it's a 10-year, $700 million deal, right? But over 9 years, starting in 2034, I believe, he'll make $68 million per year over 9 years.
I know who my number 1 is. I don't know if he's still being paid or not. Go ahead. Let's see if I can get this right. I don't want to ruin it by guessing it, but I think that what Jeremy might say here will be shockingly quiet, that most people don't know what he's about to say here.
Do you want to write it down on a piece of paper before I do this so that we can see if it's the same name? Because
Jeremy
this is
doesn't
one of
trust
my
Dan.
favorites.
Doesn't trust Dan, to be honest.
No, I just love this as a payoff. Aren't we always looking for payoff?
I think it has a little bit to do with honesty.
Number 1, Chris Davis.
I got it wrong.
Who'd you say?
Ken Griffey.
Chris Davis, former Orioles slugger, signed a 7-year, $161 million deal with the club in 2016, including $42 million in deferred money. From 2023 to 2037, they will be paying Chris Davis.
Would you have been honest if you didn't write it down?
I would have been, yeah. Because Ken Griffey, I think, is more shocking than Chris Davis, but they might have been done paying him last year. Did they pay him his last installment?
Yeah, last year Ken Griffey Jr. received his final installment of 16-year deferred $57.5 million. So last year, his final $3.593750 million payment.
That's got to feel good for all of them, though, right? When that arrives, that one payment arrives 19 years later.
You think like 2 weeks before, they're like, oh, let's go out to Shoney's. Like, nah, babe, 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we can go out to Shoney's with the whole family, not
I just
this
imagine
week.
them writing a check where it's like, don't cash it for another week.
Yeah. Just hold on.
Just give me a sec.
How old is Bobby Bonilla?
He's 62 years old, and he's still getting paid $1 million a year by the Mets.
Huge home run, Game 7, Marlins. Huge.
The Manny Ramirez story reminds me, I've told it before, but I will tell it again because it is just so great. I used to live in Pembroke Pines in a cul-de-sac in Pembroke Pines called Silver Lakes. It wasn't a high-end neighborhood. It was my first home. I would say it would classify as a middle-class neighborhood.
It's a nice neighborhood.
Nice, but I'm just
nice
not
middle class, up to upper middle class neighborhood.
But
This was a long time ago,
better
though.
than that now.
That's not what I meant by that. I'm framing this story for Manny Ramirez, but yes, I am better than
Somewhere
that.
between upper middle class and lower upper class.
Yeah.
I would
You would
say-
never be caught there today.
I wouldn't say that. I would never be caught there today. Maybe fleeing the authorities. I would get caught.
The neighborhood take a turn, or was it really like hard times over there?
Is that why you left?
Yeah, neighborhood of crime.
Was it fight or flight?
Flight.
It is a very protected neighborhood. It is a cul-de-sac, and it is, though, not a neighborhood that you would be likely to find a famous person, and certainly not one with the wealth of Manny Ramirez.
Dan still has the house. It's now just his closet.
After Manny Ramirez signed his $160 million deal with the Red Sox, I know that's quaint now, right? I know that gets you a Miles Turner now. But back then, it seemed like a ton of money, $160 million.
Reckless.
He's walking through what is largely a middle-class neighborhood, and he points at a house, and he's like, can I afford that? And it's one of these neighborhoods where the developer has only made 3 or 4 types of houses. There are no other types of houses. And in fact, I think it was just 3 types of houses in the neighborhood. And he points to one of them. He's like, I want to buy that. Can I afford that? And his agent, Gene Motto, says, Manny, you can afford this whole bleeping neighborhood, the whole thing. You can buy the whole thing for your family, and it wouldn't be any problem. But he had no concept of the amount of money that we were talking about. And I just wondered, like they were always finding uncashed
Right. Wasn't there an
checks.
accounting issue one year with him and the team?
You please look up for me a couple of stories here. I'm pretty sure Ricky Henderson, his first $1 million check, I believe the A's were like, why hasn't Ricky cashed that? It's because he just put it on his wall. I'm pretty sure Manny Ramirez always had a bunch of uncashed checks. And then there was, I think it was it Ariel Prieto, who came from Cuba, gets $1 million signing bonus, and walks around with it in the jeans of his pants for a week because he doesn't understand what banks are. Like he's from Cuba, and so he's got $1 million signing bonus check in his jeans that they're telling him is worth an amount of money, but he just doesn't he doesn't know what banks are, what a check is, what any of it means, so he's just walking around with the $1 million check.
How did Manny not have direct deposit? Like, he has an agent, he has a team around him, and he was getting paper checks. Like, he needs to go to a teller every 2 weeks?
I think that it might have been before. Is it possible that this is before direct deposit, that people would just be paid with checks? I don't know when we invented direct deposit, but for some reason, Manny Ramirez was pulled over. I think I have this story right. I think Manny Ramirez was pulled over, then made a U-turn and was pulled over again, and then they found the checks in his car, and they found. I'm pretty sure I have that right.
I can confirm the Ricky story. In 1982, Oakland A's couldn't solve an annoying accounting error. The answer was framed on Ricky Henderson's bedroom wall.
Also, Ariel Prieto did have the $1.2 million signing bonus check in his pocket for a week.
Let's find that Manny Ramirez story and see if I go 3 for 3 here, because we've got an assortment of checks for tens of thousands of dollars, uncashed checks found in Manny Ramirez's car. Is Manny still playing somewhere? Is Manny over 50 playing like in Taiwan or something? Still trying to play baseball
I
somewhere.
don't think so. I think we saw him with his son recently. Like his son was at a showcase or something, but I think his son was praising his swing. So I think he may be done for the moment. He may be done, but there's always another league that comes out. Do you guys ever have jobs where like when you got your physical check, it was a race to the bank to make sure you got paid because you weren't sure the funds were going to be there for everyone?
My old job, check bounced one time.
Are you feeling that way with God Bless Football?
No, there's no checks. Right now, this is strictly community service, and it's for my resume.
I'm seeing a month ago, Manny Ramirez says he wants to return to MLB, but as a hitting coach. So I don't think he's playing.
He's still in the cages, Dan. I just saw a video. Still in the cages, still just working on the craft.
Put it on the
just in
poll.
case.
Do you assume that Manny Ramirez will still be in the batting cage past 100 years old?
Duque is still at Tamiami Park. Like you think I'm joking?
I don't think you're joking.
My sister played a softball game against Levon Hernandez a couple months ago, and I was like, "How is that possible?" It was supposed she works at a school.
Was he the pitcher?
Okay, so it was a school, and it was supposed to be, I guess, like a bunch of schools. It was like a holiday of some sort that all the schools were off. So the schools have like these softball teams that are playing against each other that are supposed to be comprised of faculty of the school. And she sends me a picture, and she's like, "You'll never guess who I'm playing against." And she sends me a picture, and I'm not here to shame anyone. Unrecognizable. I was like, "Who the hell is that?" She's like, "That's Levon Hernandez." I'm like, how is Levon Hernandez? Like, Levon Hernandez, is he a science teacher? Why is Levon Hernandez playing in a school versus school softball game at Tamiami Park? Other than the fact that I guess we just got to keep our juices going and we need the competition. First baseman he was playing
That makes
at.
sense.
Big target.
I've seen him at the highlight fronton. He still looks like Levon Hernandez.
Turns
What
out,
are you doing to him?
I guess he's doing some coaching at a school, so he was eligible for this roster. But they brought in a ringer. Levon Hernandez is now playing in faculty versus faculty.
I don't know why it is you
softball
felt the
games.
need to put quote marks around that.
Well, because someone knows
coaching.
Levon Hernandez. Like, we have a big softball tournament. You want to come out there and then say when people ask you what's going on, he's a baseball coach, assistant baseball coach.
I will
whatever.
tell you, I have rarely been more scared doing anything in sports than what I'm about to describe for you. Showing up at Tamiami Park for a softball game, playing third base, and looking in the opposing dugout, and there are Jose and Ozzie Canseco. Screaming line drives toward third base are not anything I want a part of if they don't hit the 500-foot home run that they are confident that they're going to hit every time, because those two guys were only there to hit the ball as far as a human being can hit it. Like, Jose Canseco was only going out there. The only reason, it wasn't to win, it wasn't to beat anybody up. It is just simply to swing and have everyone go, I can't believe how far that softball went. But when it didn't go far, it went screaming at the third baseman's forehead. And I was too close. And I was scared of everything that was happening there, because the way that the ball came off those bats, it wasn't Levon Hernandez. And Levon could hit too.
That's why they call it the hot corner. Update on the Manny Ramirez story that you were talking about. Yes, he was pulled over in Cleveland in 1997. He was receiving 3 tickets, which were for illegally tinted windows, the stereo blasting too loud, and there was something else that it's not saying right here. But when the cop pulled him over, he knew who Manny was. He said, "Manny, I'm going to give you a ticket." And his response was, "I don't need any tickets. I can give you tickets." And sped away, pulled around with an illegal U-turn, and then received another ticket.
And how many checks were found?
There's no details,
Okay.
and I've just read 3 different articles, and none of them have details of the checks.
Okay.
But I'm like a dog with a bone on this. I'll find
I played
it.
second base charity softball game. I threw out Derek Lee at first base.
Really?
I picked that grounder up, threw him out.
Wow.
That's right.
When Ozzie and Jose are there, you got to play
Clean.
back on the infield, right? Like, if you're playing, Ozzie and Jose are not going to bunt. You got to play back.
Agreed. What I'm telling you is you can't play back far enough. I was in left field, and I was still scared. Like, I did not have the arm strength to throw the ball from where I was to the first baseman.
You're the cutoff guy.
Look, if they hit any kind of ball on the ground, they were going to have an infield single. I was just trying to make sure there wasn't a dent in my forehead.
Keep it in front of you.
If Pat Riley had punched me with a diamond in the forehead.
Zaz, who's the first baseman? The celebrity first baseman when you threw out Derek Lee?
I don't remember. But I was double play tandem. I was second base, shortstop, Michael.
Oh, wow.
What were you doing in this game?
playing baseball.
No, I know, but it was a celebrity game.
Yeah.
Like Make-A-Wish.
You know who I am?
I'm just asking. I don't know.
He's a big star.
What year was this?
Zaz,
Maybe like 10 years ago.
Zaz, a big rising star at ESPN Radio. 305-486-GOTS is the number. I've got some more God Bless Football questions, but we've got a Boost Mobile Boldest Take hotline. It's 305-486-GOTS. It has been up and down. It's been better, but it's been up and down. How do you feel about this batch, Chris Cody?
I feel good about this batch. It's the Boost Mobile Boldest Take, and it's presented by, of course, Boost Mobile, the newest 5G network in the country.
Hey guys, walking the dog. Isn't it weird how if you're up for something or down for something, it means the same thing?
My boldest take is no one realizes how bad old school wrestlers were. Hulk Hogan, terrible. Finishers, a leg drop? Kidding me? Everyone does a goddamn leg drop. I hang up and listen.
This is Dan on a walkie-talkie. I don't like the expression, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Why? Who's getting cake and not eating it? Over and out.
Hey gang, Ryan up in Washington State. One of life's underrated joys is opening a can of Pringles to find them completely unbroken and perfectly stacked. Amazing.
Yeah, this is Mark on a mobile. My bold take is that all things considered, especially versatility, lemon is the most underrated fruit. I'll stay on.
Don't try to take Race the friend to the hole, 'cause you will not score. You know who that is. That is Race the friend. Who the F are you?
Yeah, this is Josh from a mobile in my car. My bold take is that Mission Impossible should be called Mission Kind of Impossible, because all the previous missions have been impossible, yet they still solved them, so it wasn't really that impossible. I think maybe Mission Kind of Impossible. I'll hang up and listen.
Hey there, this is Todd. I just wanted to say I miss Stugotz. I'm not afraid to...
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Should it actually be named Mission Kind of Impossible? Also put on the poll, is lemon the most underrated fruit?
Is that guy okay at the end?
And also put on the poll, is life's greatest pleasure opening a can of Pringles and having them all be unbroken? At Le Batard Show. The telephone number, again, is 305-486-GOTS, 4689. We've mentioned Stugotz. We've mentioned God Bless Football. Billy, can you give me anything in the way of an update? Because I asked Stugotz this yesterday. I'm like, are you guys going to Lake Tahoe or not? And I got a plume of blue smoke he spit in my face, like from heaters and disease, and no truth. And so I don't know whether you guys are going to Tahoe. I know that God Bless Football is going to be more often during football season. I know God Bless Football has new studios and is going to try and grow as a business. I don't know what's going on with Tahoe. Do you know what's going on with Tahoe?
It's definitely a maybe on the Tahoe situation. Stugotz he's dead set on going. It's just a logistical thing, and as you know, Dan, it's hard starting a business, and now we're paying for things out on our own. So if I want to go to Tahoe, I'm going to pay out of pocket to go to Lake Tahoe. So I'm have to talk to the missus and say, is this financially something we're going to do? And we're out there. We have deals coming in soon. So at some point, we're not going to have to pay out of pocket for these things. But at the moment, until those things are signed and the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, these things are coming out of pocket.
In the interim, you guys should support God Bless Football and Stupodity and StuTube. He is working very hard on those things, and that is the reason that he is around less, because by the time of football season, he's going to want to be making God Bless Football a lot more often for you. But right now, you can get it. It's pretty easy to find all over the internet, and he is doing, I don't know what the schedule is, though, Billy, because he hasn't informed me. It's nebulous, and I've asked him several times, like, I want to promote the things that you're doing. Tell me what I need to know. And again, it's just it's a lot of smoke.
No, I mean, it's hard. I mean, we're balancing two responsibilities at the same time. The schedules here are not super consistent, so sometimes we have recording days that are one day, and then other times we're not scheduled the same day. So we're trying to make it work in the interim, but we're working on it. It's getting out there.
God bless football. Please support the things that Stugotz and Billy are doing. I want to put a few things in front of Zaslow, who is a judge, a journalist, a lawyer, a race war expert, and a doctor. Right now, I'd like to speak to the judge, if that's okay.
Yep.
You have something that you have to go to? You need a costume? Okay, you have...
All rise. The Honorable Jonathan Zaslow now presiding with prejudice.
All right, so we have imaging here on a prejudiced judge, John Zaslow. Does anyone call you John? Or
It's
is it
weird that you decided to call me John.
I see there he's got to switch headphones.
Yeah,
here.
switch
This is
headphones
big.
because he's got Judge. Okay, he's got a thing he's got to put on his head. Okay, because he is Judge Dredd. What year was that movie?
All
Judge?
rise. The Honorable Jonathan Zaslow now presiding with prejudice.
What movie? What year is Judge Dredd? A Sylvester Stallone movie?
1995, the year I was born.
Okay, very good.
Was he ever a Johnny? Were you ever a Johnny as a kid?
Nope.
Really? Never?
Nope. Nice try.
Why not? Wait, nice try. It's not a trick. It's just a question.
Nice try.
Is Mike Ryan allowed to root for Florida Panther Brad Marchand next year?
Okay. So Brad Marchand signed a 6-year deal. Great day for the Panthers. Great day for the Panther fan. But Mike Ryan has been saying that Marchand is dead to him. He doesn't even want him on the team. And now apparently Mike Ryan said he's okay with it. Is that what happened?
It seems like he's okay with it. You're not really answering the question. You're asking.
I'm trying to gather
more,
evidence here.
More information. Okay, so he's back on. He's on the bandwagon. He's back on the bandwagon, and he wants back on to enjoy Brad Marchand's career.
All right. So again, what's the charge?
Is Mike Ryan allowed to root for Brad Marchand next year?
Mike Ryan is allowed to root for Brad Marchand. There's no timetable on how long it takes for you to come around on a player. It didn't take him that long. I'm willing to look past it. He is allowed to root for Brad Marchand now. He is. I rule always with prejudice.
Is Greg Cody allowed to roll up or leave a funeral playing Beach Boys music too loudly in his car?
Greg Cody claims that this was a bonding point between him and the deceased. It's very rare that someone would pull up to a funeral with not only music blasting from the car, but Beach Boys Surfing USA blasting from the car. Can you tell me again what the charge is?
The charge is Greg Cody allowed to leave or go to a funeral playing Beach Boys too loud in his car?
Okay, I know what the charge is, and he is guilty. He is not allowed to do that. It's disrespectful to the deceased to pull up with music blasting, and then you claim that this was a bonding point. Very disrespectful with prejudice.
It'd be like if I was jamming to Pearl Jam if you passed. That's not allowed? It's like, why can't I would want to celebrate you.
It depends. Does everybody know that this was a place
What do you
that
mean
we bonded?
It depends? Because
Of course it depends. Because did anybody know that Greg Cody and the deceased, that this was a bonding point? Sounds like it's Greg's word against everybody.
They didn't know, and then he informed them.
No, you need proof. He's guilty.
Sometimes the way Zaslow enunciates words, it like rattles around inside my skull a little bit. Does that happen to you guys?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Does the way Zaslow pronounces words rattle around in your skull a little bit?
Not guilty.
The timing on this and the way that this is played out is simply incredible, because there is a possibility that there's someone who is at home watching with two televisions who on one television is watching Judge Zaslow and him telling us whether or not Greg Cody can play Beach Boys and Mike can be a Panthers fan. And on the other one, the jury verdict is in on the Diddy trial, which is a real trial.
I'm
and
the
that
judge
is going
there
to
also.
That will be read soon. So while one of the bigger trials in pop culture in our time is being read, we are now levying verdicts on whether or not Greg Cody can play Beach Boys while you're wearing a helmet.
I thought you were going to say, as one of the bigger verdicts is being rendered, we also wait for the Diddy verdict. I thought is what you were going to do there, because this is the most important verdict. And I've got one more question for Zaz before I go to
I'll allow it.
To Jessica. Thank you.
Judge Johnny.
A lot of people are still coming after me because I made the mistake immediately after the Stanley Cup final of confusing Sam Reinhart and Sam Bennett. My excuse is that there are not that many great Sams in sports. At Le Batard Show, put it up on the poll. Are there any great Sams? Can you be great at sports if your name is Sam? And who is the most famous of the Sams in
Sammy
sports?
Sosa would like a word.
Okay, that's tainted.
What?
Whoa.
What do you do?
Sammy Sosa is a bit tainted, and it's Sammy. Sammy is different. Like Fred and Freddie are different in terms of athletic greatness. Ed and Eddie are different. The one syllable hurts people. If I throw a Y on it, Bill will tell you. Bill Gill will tell you. You need that Y on the end. Is it a forgivable mistake that I confuse the two Sams is the question for Judge Zaslow.
Sam Bennett won the Conn Smythe, a very prestigious award. Sam Reinhart scored 4 goals in the Stanley Cup clinching game. They both have the same first name.
Yeah, we covered all that.
Quiet in the court.
It's your gavel.
Quiet in the court.
It was quiet.
Quiet in the court. I will throw you right out. Like I was saying, confusing Sam Bennett for Sam Reinhart is a disgrace.
Oh, no.
And I rule with the most prejudice possible. It's unforgivable, Dan Le Batard.
Oh, no.
Unforgivable.
Sam Bradford, Sam Cassell, and Jessica's boy, Sam Hartman.
Sam Presti?
Mm-hmm.
Is the best of the Sams Sam Bradford?
Court adjourned.
Sure seems like it.
Sam Madison.
I can't believe I didn't get to. Not a lot of Hall of Famers there. Sam Madison's a good one, but I mean, there are not a lot of.
Sam Snead?
Sam Ewis.
My God.
Sam Morrell.
Sam Malone.
Sam Malone is also a good one. We have not gotten to Red Panda getting hurt last night. Red Panda, for those of you who are not familiar, is a basketball icon. This is as famous of entertainment as you will find anywhere in the sports experience, correct? If I ask you the most famous of the sports experience entertainers, that never happens to Red Panda. How hurt was she?
Well, apparently, according to Ben Pickman from The Athletic, former coworker of mine, actually, from Sports Illustrated, she was wheeled off in a wheelchair and was seen leaving in an ambulance, and it appeared that she may have hurt her wrist, which, I mean, you can see there she's waving and, is walking off under her own accord, but really sad, kind of put a damper on the whole evening. Obviously, everyone was talking about this as being the big injury from the Fever Lynx game in the Commissioner's Cup, Red Panda.
Wheelchair for a wrist?
It was.
See, the joke is that Caitlin Clark was also out, but you guys don't really watch the WNBA, so
I was wondering
someone at home got it.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on Mike Ryan yesterday. Had a lot of thoughts about whether or not he's allowed to hate.
I agree. Mike Ryan was absolutely correct. All these soft women say you can't make fun of female athletes anymore. And he's absolutely right to hate on an athlete that already gets a disproportionate amount of hate without even watching her games. He's absolutely right.
He said irrational. Do people not get that? Irrationally. It means no ration.
Tony, I love your work. Absolutely.
Thank you, Misogyny Spain. Somebody finally said it.
I mean, I do enjoy the idea of I'm allowed to hate, right? As long as it's irrational. I'm saying it's irrational, so allow me to hate.
The qualifier's there. Irrationally.
Right. So you just allow me to hate.
I'll just say this. It was a bad look for Mike yesterday, and I am just referring to the mustache.
Yeah.
Okay? We don't even have to go further than that.
We really don't. It is a terrible mustache. Can you guys get me some of the information on Bezos's wedding that people are protesting in Venice, because I know that the wealth disparity right now throughout the globe is something that a lot of people are now paying attention to. And Bezos is doing something so grotesquely opulent around his wedding that you have people in a city that is used to tourists who are deeply offended by him bringing all of his American money to Venice and essentially just buying the city for his wedding.
They used it as a means to be concerned with the general over-tourism in Venice, and this was a perfect example. So this was in San Giorgio Maggiore in Venice, but based on projections by Forbes,
Famous San.
it cost $25 million for the wedding. Guests paid approximately $900,000 each for their 3-night stays at luxury hotels based on the projections, those including Oprah Winfrey, Gayle King, Orlando Bloom, basically every Kardashian, Karlie Kloss, Leonardo DiCaprio, Usher, and Tom Brady. They rented 30 private water taxis to escort guests around the city, estimated to cost about $270,000 in water travel for their guests alone. The wedding was catered by three Michelin star chef Fabrizio Meino.
It's not important.
Based
you don't
on
need to do all three
restaurants' costs for number of guests, over $1 million in food and beverage. Security costs a few $1 million for the high-profile guests. Andrea Bocelli's son, Matteo Bocelli, sang at the ceremony. He sang "Can't Help Falling in Love." Ellie Goulding was hired to reportedly perform at the reception. Sanchez's corseted mermaid-style wedding dress was custom designed by Dolce & Gabbana and featured hand-applied Italian lace. Before Friday's celebration, Sanchez herself made her way to whatever it was, dressed in a 60s-inspired tailored white skirt designed by Dior for the wedding dinner.
Stop talking.
Why? That was a lot of info.
I still wanted more.
Could have used less. 3 days, $900,000 for the hotels. And
You cover that if you're Bezos, right?
Yes. Oprah did not pay to go to Jeff Bezos' wedding
said
$1
that they
million.
did.
Those estimates, by the way, like, I'm not questioning Jeremy at all, but like when everything is reported estimates, it's like that thing when the Super Bowl's economic impact is $30 billion to a city, and it's like, yeah, we still can't pay for school, so where'd all that money go?
They did the
Like,
math
I don't
in
think
the
any
article.
of that is
I
real.
just, figured I was going to get
projected.
too many details.
You just say anything is projected this, projected that, and then it buys you time. Yeah, I project that Little Havana is going to be revitalized by Marlins Park. Okay. I think there's a urologist office in the parking garage, and that's it.
He's the richest guy on the planet, and you want him to have a cheap wedding?
Tony,
boy.
Talk about missing the point.
No, but I'm asking, like, you want him to have a cheap wedding, or do you want him to have
would have
the
been
means of what it is?
It would have been hilarious if it was like a
it's too much.
$60,000 wedding.
Yeah, I can't spend that. Sorry. Rent out the ballroom.
We are
Little Havana.
so doomed, Dan. I have nothing to say on that.
You have Jeff Bezos eloping and getting married by an Elvis impersonator at a chapel in Vegas on a Wednesday night at midnight?
That would be hilarious.
He went $25 million. That was lower than I thought it would be, given what it is that I was reading about the details on it.
Dan,
but
would you go if you were invited? Would you?
No.
Would you?
That's
no?
not.
What would your
you would not go
what
to
would you
that.
say?
A who's who of celebrities.
Send a
You
gift?
wouldn't go? Why not?
If I don't know Jeff Bezos,
So
why
what?
would I want to be
Neither
there?
does Sydney Sweeney. Do you think any of
Exactly.
these celebrities know Bezos?
And her and
this
Tom
is like,
Brady are canoodling.
We're so rich. We can invite whoever we want. Who are the coolest celebrities that make us look cool by them hanging out at our wedding weekend?
I'm picturing like just a friend of Jeff's back in the day that like didn't get invited, and he's just like, "What the?
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom?
You'd go
Well,
on a
that's
New
the
York
other
Minute.
interesting thing, Chris Cody, is that Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry announced like a week ago that they were splitting up, and Katy Perry apparently was not allowed to go to the wedding, and Orlando Bloom got to go to the wedding. So I don't know how that conversation went down. Because
He won
Katy
the friend
Perry,
face-off.
Yeah, we know where Jeff
Katy Perry
stands.
flew on his rocket like a month ago with Gayle King. So somehow Orlando Bloom still won the Bezos wedding invite in the split up.
Docket.
Billy, it was moving very quickly there, so I don't know who it is that you accused of canoodling. Was it Tom Brady with somebody?
And Sydney Sweeney, yeah, those were the reports that they were spending a lot of time talking to each other at the nuptials. You haven't seen those reports?
I have not.
I saw a
you would have
different
seen it in
report,
person had
Billy.
you gone. But you took a moral stand against Jeff Bezos for some reason.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio, climate activist.
He wore a hat, right? That's crazy.
That's just his move whenever there's paparazzi around. I saw photos of him in the wedding without the hat, but just like, dude, we know it's you, Leo.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, he's always just like, no one knows it's me.
Did you guys see, like, I don't know if you guys, like, felt as bad as I did for Leo recently, but it's been rough times for Leo. Like, he recently got in a relationship with a 27-year-old.
I saw that,
He broke
Billy.
his 25-year-old rule.
Everyone's saying that it's a recession indicator. Kind of scary.
It's hard times for poor Leo, you know?
Where are you guys on the Bezos wedding other than asking me whether or not I would go? All of you would go? All of you if you had
Wait,
to pay your own way?
You said-
Because keep in mind, you just said $900,000 for 3 days. You had these celebrities are paying for things. You didn't make it free for me.
They didn't pay for that, Dan. Oprah didn't pay $1 million.
The way
to go see
Jeremy
Jeff
read
Bezos
Rich people don't
married.
pay for anything.
Yeah.
Dan. They don't pay for anything.
But that's not what
the
Jeremy
secret.
said. It's fine that you guys can want your own set of facts, but it's not what Jeremy said. Jeremy said that the estimated cost of it being an attendee is around $1 million.
Estimated.
That doesn't mean that they covered their own costs. I would also like to add that you said you wouldn't go because you're not his friend, but are you open to being his friend and perhaps going to the next wedding?
I would not pay. Again, you guys aren't. I
No.
heard
The
what.
question is, would you go, not would you pay?
It's all expenses
would
paid,
you
Dan.
go?
All expenses paid. Would you go?
Maybe for the story.
Okay.
It is not clear whether the couple was paying for the guest rooms, but 2 wedding planners say it's standard for ultra-luxe events like this. So, seems like they paid for the weddings.
I love how we're all acting like Oprah couldn't, foot that bill. Like, I think it'd be fine.
I'm not acting like Oprah can't foot that bill. I'm saying $900,000 for 3 days seems like a big bill to land on somebody when you're inviting them to your wedding.
Across the globe, too.
But that's also the classic, would you take $250,000 or dinner with Jay-Z? Yeah. Imagine all the contacts you could make at the Bezos-Sanchez nuptials.
True.
You think that you're sidling up to DiCaprio in that cap and walking away friends with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody there thinks that everybody there is somebody. They may not know who you are, but if they don't know who you are, you actually might be the most popular person there because they're like, well, who's that guy?
Do you have...
Like, I know, that's Gigi Hadid. I know who that is.
Do you
who's
have
that guy?
The friend of his that did get invited, do you have that guy, like, going around, like, pitching ideas? Like, I got a movie idea for Leo. I got this idea.
Yeah, like cousin Jim Bezos.
It's just Stugotz.
Hey, right, a bunch of Stugotz.
It's just Stugotz walking up to people.
Hey, Leo, you want to come on my podcast?
That's Tahoe.
That's right. We don't know if we're going to Tahoe yet, but we will let you know when it is that Stugotz knows. Or
We keep saying we. It's more like they are going to Tahoe.
I mean, it's always been they go to Tahoe.
Yeah. I went actually once.
I got a text about Tahoe last night. That's all I'm going to say.
Congratulations. We still don't know. Billy, you've got more information on Tahoe than Billy has.
It seems so, yeah.
I wanted to ask Jeremy if there were any other Bezos facts that there are worth knowing, or if we've scarred.
He's gotten all of them wrong so far. So.
Nope.
Okay, good work by you. What did you think about Travis Kelce's comments, Jessica, on the hardest part about hosting Saturday Night Live, which he did very well, right? He had no issues hosting, and no one had any complaints about what a natural he was. But he said the hardest part of hosting SNL was the pre-show table read because, quote, I can't really read that well.
Well, it made me think of this show specifically because A, we know you love SNL, Dan, and B, we have producers who, when we have to do reads, we constantly screw up because of the pressure of reading. Sometimes reading in front of a group can be hard. So I found this very relatable, and it honestly made me think of Chris Cody. So I wanted to talk about it.
It also made me think of me.
Jeremy, how did you hold up with how it is that you were reading those Bezos facts? Because I know you, like Whittingham, are very particular about every single stumble. And then you had one stumble and then more of them arrived after that.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Jess makes a good point, which is it's tough to read in front of a group, except I would bet it's easier to do so in front of the SNL people because they probably don't seize on every single time that you misspeak. Mm-hmm. So it's more difficult to do it here, Chris. So good for you.
We should have Travis Kelce come to the studio and try to read in the shipping container and ask him which one was harder. That would be
I think it's a great idea.
Free idea.
Stugotz can
well,
get
not
him, right?
free. I'll invoice you for that.
Things are tense today, huh?
Billy mentioned earlier this week that it does not feel like 4th of July week. I don't know what 4th of July week is supposed to feel like, but he was complaining because he didn't want his national holiday on a Friday. That doesn't happen very much in general, does it? Like,
I just want the extra days off. If I get on a Thursday, I could get that Friday off. And the Friday feels like a cheat code. And if I get the Wednesday and I really want to be a bad boy, I can try to stretch that into a Thursday, Friday, maybe Tuesday half-day situation. But just the Friday, like a 3-day weekend.
So you want the week off for 4th of July is really what you're saying.
Do you love our country or not?
No, I'll be there Monday. All right. I'll show up Monday and half of Tuesday in an ideal world. But now it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Jessica
Thursday.
has a top 5 list here of the top 5 worst days for 4th of July to fall on. Do you have
There's only 7 options.
An OLI? Any OLI
I have
here?
2 OLIs.
2
actually.
OLI.
wow.
All right.
I love this.
Go ahead. Number
Okay,
7.
so OLI Friday.
That's the one that's falling on this week. OLI. Wow. That's OLI. So that makes it the best day to fall on okay.
It's the 7th worst, I would say.
Okay.
And the 6th worst, I would say, is Monday.
So the OLIs are in numerical order for you. Typically, my OLIs are just OLIs. We couldn't put a number and pin them down, you know?
Yes, you're
To
doing
me,
a top
I think
7.
there was No, it's a top 5.
That's a top 7.
No,
That's a top
they were-
5.
No, yeah.
I'm
We
a judge.
clarified it.
Number 5.
Okay, number 5, Thursday.
Number 4.
5th worst day for the 4th of July to fall on. Number 4, Saturday. 4th worst, because if it falls on a Saturday, do you even get it? I guess you get a day off Friday at some jobs. That's where you get the federal holiday falls on the Friday. I don't know how that works, but
do you?
Or a Monday.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies will give like the one bookend the week off, but the actual day being on Saturday doesn't do anything for me. Well, it does the 4th worst for me.
Is 4th of July something that it must have landed on a Saturday or Sunday, and
Yes.
I don't remember it giving another day off during the week to compensate for the fact that the national holiday was on a weekend.
Well, you tell us,
Someone
Dan.
look it up.
We have 4th of July on Saturday next year. Are you going to give us the day off
No,
on Friday?
I'm telling you, we've never had the day before off. Like, not with
You
this
say
holiday.
this as though we don't just take holidays off willy-nilly.
Or just days off willy-nilly because there's nobody keeping track of what days you take
We
off.
got unlimited days off.
Yeah, I mean, unlimited means unlimited. If you
Thank
don't want
you,
us to
Samson.
take it, give us a number. Yeah, geez.
What number are we on? 3?
3, Tuesday.
Tuesday is just, that's terrible. That would never be good.
It's the 3rd worst because what do you go to work
the third
Monday
best, I
and then you get Tuesday off? No, it's a list of the 5 worst days.
I love
Oh,
this
this is
list.
the worst. My bad. I was not following this.
Really? Number 2.
Number 2, Sunday. No one wants a Sunday 4th of July, Dan.
But you may get that Monday.
The best
Well,
of the
maybe.
4th of July.
We haven't determined.
Days to fall on is
No. The worst, Dan. The,
the
worst day
See?
for the 4th of
You're with
July.
me.
You need to apologize to Chris right now.
Number 1.
I'm waiting for a sorry.
Number 1. Go to
Wednesday.
break. Virtually everyone in here and everyone listening to this is more internet savvy than I am. So the question I'm about to ask, I ask with great vulnerability, as often I say things about the internet and you guys ravage me like piranha. I often feel like I'm swimming naked in the Amazon around piranha when we talk about the internet. I want to know what is happening on a couple of fronts. One, what is happening to information on the internet with AI that makes it so that a simple Google search that I now do is more complicated and more susceptible to misinformation than it has been in the history of Google. And furthermore, on my phone, I am getting an exasperating amount of I am not a robot exercises that I have to go to identifying buses,
Crosswalks.
and motorcycles. And it's never just 1 or 2. I have to do it several times, and furthermore, get confused sometimes. Is that guy's head a part of the motorcycle? The rear view mirror's in the motorcycle.
When in doubt, click it.
Does that? Well, but I just want to know why this is happening to me. Why am I getting 5 and 6 of these instead of 1 just when I want to Google search something?
And then sometimes you click "I'm not a robot" and it just kind of accepts it.
Do you ever wonder what would happen if you said, I am a robot?
That should be an option.
I feel like Tom Cruise and his crew from Minority Report. Like, they show up at your door when you click on I am a robot.
Well, wouldn't you be clicking I am a robot by just consistently getting wrong where the buses and the crosswalks and the motorcycles?
It sounds like you are. If you're getting
the
5
internet,
of those that think you're getting them wrong.
It thinks you're a robot, Dan.
Fine, but like, what happens when it figures out you're a robot?
I want to know why it is that I'm not getting immediate access after the first time. Is it because I'm getting it wrong, that I'm clicking on a rear view mirror that's not a part of the motorcycle technically in what it is I'm supposed to be proving that I'm not a robot with?
To me, I'm always over guessing. So it's like if the toe is on the line, like I'm going towards saying it's a piece of a bicycle or a bus or whatever it might be, because if you're even questioning it, that normally ends up getting you through to the website.
Do we not think that the computers can kind of figure that out too? Like, is this the best thing we have to block AI and computers and like the digital age to get to that website or get whatever information that is?
I look forward to whatever the evolution of that is, where the computers figure out.
It's like, oh, it's a crosswalk here. Bing.
I still am not getting a good answer, though, for usually when you guys do I am not a robot, it's one test and then you get to where it is that you want to go.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
So you guys are telling me that I'm answering incorrectly the first time, and that's why I'm getting 4 or 5. You guys are telling me that the moment I answer correctly, I'm going to stop getting I am not a robot screen.
Sometimes you get 2. Where you're getting them right.
5 if you're getting things wrong.
If you're getting more than 2, I would think you're getting
to
something
Zaz's
wrong.
point, Zaz, I don't know if in all of the hats that you wear, if you're a lawyer. You're a lawyer in any of these things that you do? Okay.
How do you think I became a judge?
I don't know.
Gotta be a lawyer first.
Appointee? I don't know. It's possible.
Nah, dog.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking a question. I'm trying to give you here.
It's insulting for someone who went to school to be a lawyer and then you question if they're actually a lawyer. That's
I'm
all.
trying to give you game-changing, life-changing suggestions here for you, an industry that I don't think has existed. Yesterday we were talking about jobs that we didn't know exist, and I was talking about theme park journalist. I didn't realize that was a job. And I think that there's a job out there that hasn't been invented yet, and I think that you qualify for it as someone who is a lawyer, which I wasn't sure. I think that you can be the lawyer that represents robot discrimination. We're trying to keep robots out of all these things. Robots aren't getting their fair shake. Someone needs to stand up for these robots. At some point, a lawsuit will be fired on behalf of a robot that was not allowed into a thing because they could not identify all the traffic lights. And I feel like that could be your lane.
It's so stupid, I don't even know what to say.
All right.
You're missing a big opportunity here, by the way. Because not only that, in the advanced age of AI and robots, guess who helps them? You, right? As they turn on humanity. No, wait. Zaz is a good one.
Book
He's
his clothes on
us.
Zaz. He's an idiot. He turned down a golden opportunity.
Me and you start a robo
That's
firm.
fine.
Me and you.
I like that.
We don't need a law.
Firmware.
Wow.
I'm out.
Okay, good. We don't want you anyways.
$1 billion idea. You just
You're not a
missed
real
out, buddy.
lawyer
See
either.
ya. We'll
You're
be
a
at Jeff
fraud.
Bezos next wedding. You won't be.
I don't even know that robots deal with real money, and that's why I'm out.
Buddy, you heard of crypto?
Ever heard of Bitcoin?
That's not even real. That's not real.
You know how banks work? It's all digital now. Catch up,
Ones
Jack.
and zeros, buddy.
Oof, you're
Don't
going the
give me
way
that.
of the VHS, loser.
It's not real.
Let me get some sound here from Paul Feinbaum. He is touting, and this is a really fun thing to do at the beginning of July, because I remember many years ago, Beano Cook, he predicted, was it Ron Powlus or Brady Quinn would win 2 Heisman trophies. He predicted one of those players would win 2 Heisman trophies. They obviously did not. But here is Paul Feinbaum saying of Arch Manning, Peyton Manning, and what are you laughing about?
I love this clip, but go ahead. You need to play it first.
Yes. This is the nephew of, right? This is the nephew of Peyton Manning, and and Eli Manning. Here is Arch Manning, who's the quarterback at the University of Texas. This is what Paul Feinbaum has to say.
They're very capable of doing it again this year. I believe also that Arch Manning is the best college football quarterback we have seen since Tim Tebow entered the scene in 2006.
We haven't seen him, though. And look, like, no disrespect, all right, because college football experts, everybody knows, Paul Feinbaum, Heather Dinich, and me. I do college football tailgate for ESPN Radio, so everybody knows I'm college football
Guy turned
expert.
down being a lawyer for robots. I mean, think he knows anything about anything?
They don't deal with real money. Don't even get me started. It's funny because the best we've ever seen, he appeared in like 3 games last year. I mean, UT San Antonio, Mississippi State, the worst team in the SEC. Steve Sarkisian decided Quinn Ewers is a better option for us to win football games. But Arch Manning is one of the best. It might be the best college quarterback we've ever seen. What is he going to do against Ohio State? August 30th. Better go out there slinging it against Ohio State. We're already talking about Arch Manning is the greatest thing ever. Tank for Arch. Can we see him play a little bit of college football first? It's crazy.
Gotta have a better slogan than that. Tank for Arch. We got to come up with something better than
March
that.
for Arch.
Something. Spitballing.
We've hardly seen him play. We don't even know if he's any good at the collegiate level.
Be starch for Arch.
I tuned into to Feinbaum yesterday because I was driving around, and I when you get a car, you usually get like a trial for like satellite radio, so you get anything that's broadcast anywhere. So I'm trying to use it. I've never used it before, but I decided, you know what, I can listen to Feinbaum, and I did it a couple weeks ago, so I was trying to listen to Feinbaum yesterday. Fill in this week. I don't think there's any show, and I don't want to be rude. It was not PB. I don't want to be rude.
PB the GOAT.
I don't remember who it was, but I've never felt as disappointed tuning into a show than tuning into Feinbaum to not get Feinbaum. It just wasn't the same. And the guy's like, coming up, we're going to take callers. I'm like, no, you're not.
Feinbaum once threatened to call the Attorney General on me.
Really?
On his show. It's
a flex.
He threatened me to call Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, and have me thrown in prison.
What'd you say? What was your
true
take?
Story.
What was the take?
Okay, so this is like 10 years ago. He didn't know who the hell I am, except he wants to throw me in prison. And
you tell me you were playing in an infield celebrity softball game. You threw out Derek Lee 10 years ago?
This was before my star turn throwing out. I threw his ass out. That was a hot shot, threw his ass out. And we used to have a caller on our show. Me and Joy Taylor, we did mornings at $7.90 a ticket, and we had like a prank caller who used to call other national radio shows, and he would throw my name in there, like he would work in my name. Big hitting prospect, Zaslow. What do you think about calling him up? You know, he would get these guys all the time, and he kept getting through on Feinbaum's show. And at one point, now we didn't condone nor condemn the caller. Okay, we had nothing to do with it. It was not part of my show. We didn't condone nor condemn. And Feinbaum got so mad after a number of times this guy got through. He was yelling at his producer on the air. He was yelling about me. I'm gonna call my friend Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Gonna have this Zaslow thrown in a gulag. That's what he said. He was going to throw me in a gulag.
Gulag is a great word. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is gulag the funniest word for prison? How do you feel about fanning for Manning, where you're both fanning for him because you're a fan, but you're also swinging and missing? Panning for Manning? Because Arch is going to be harder. Arch, starch for Arch, March for Arch. It's parch for Arch. Parch. You're thirsty.
So you're just gonna stop drinking so you can have Archie Manning. I'm parched for Arch.
Yeah. You're gonna stop winning. You're gonna stop the delicious drink and flavor taste of winning.
Just living with Cottonmouth because you want Archie Manning.
You're gonna parch for Arch. It's not great, admittedly, but it needs to rhyme. We're in agreement. Your alliteration's not enough, right? It's not enough to have an A, ass for Arch. Like you need
it's the ch at the end.
So then you got to go Manning, right? And fanning and panning are your only two choices.
Planning for Manning.
Planning for Manning.
You like that? All right. So put it on the poll at Le Batard Show.
I think panning's the best.
What about tanning for Manning?
tanking a tanking team. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. A tanking team's best slogan: fanning for Manning, panning for Manning.
Being starch for Arch. Starch for Arch.
Tanning
yeah,
for
you're just
Manning.
getting skin cancer because you want Archie Manning.
planning.
Darkest fan base.
Planning for Manning. Okay, we're in agreement that Manning is going to make this easier than Arch. We're going to quit on Arch, right?
No, I'm parched for Arch.
So you're mad at Feinbaum for saying that Arch Manning is the best freshman quarterback that I have seen. Freshman quarterback is Jameis Winston. That's the best I've seen in college football. Obviously, Tim Tebow is sort of the symbol for great college quarterback, right? I'd put Ken Dorsey in there as well, Danny Werfel, just a quarterback who you knew would be good in college but might not necessarily be much of a pro. That's not what they're saying about Arch Manning. Arch Manning, at this point, everyone's in agreement, correct, that Arch Manning will be an NFL quarterback.
I don't even know if he's good in college. Play an SEC team, not Mississippi State.
It doesn't matter if he's good in college or not. He's going to be a professional football
He's going to be the number 1 overall pick, even if he's not good in college.
I feel like it has to matter.
Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure that we could go look up Tim Boyle's numbers, and he has never had good numbers at any level of play, even high school, and yet he has started NFL games. I don't believe outside of injury that there is any sort of chance that Arch Manning will not throw a game as a starter in the NFL.
Nathan Peterman was in the NFL, for God's sake.
In 3 years at UConn, it was 1 touchdown and 13 interceptions for one Tim Boyle.
Matt Castle never started at USC, so I guess it is possible.
All right, but those guys weren't projected number 1 overall pick. Makes a little bit of a difference, right?
Well, if you had to bet and be right, though, Arch Manning will throw an NFL pass as an NFL starting quarterback. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
So there's your answer on why it is people are doing this, even though we haven't seen him play much. Like I saw Texas struggling a little bit, trying to move the ball, and then they put in Arch Manning when their season ended, and Arch Manning made for Ewers coming right back into the game because they shouldn't have done that. He wasn't ready. He couldn't beat out what is a 6th-round pick who is now a backup quarterback for the Miami Dolphins.
It was an injured Quinn Ewers coming back, too. I think it was in the Red River rivalry, and they tried Manning at the end of the first half. He didn't do anything either. I got news for you. Oklahoma sucked last year.
Not at defense, they didn't, but they were generally bad. Didn't they play him a little bit in the eliminator against Ohio State? Didn't Arch Manning come into the game in the championship game?
I don't think he threw any passes.
The expectation on this human being, though, because he has that name on the back of his uniform, is impossibly high. It is unbelievably weird to have a situation with a quarterback you have seen play sparingly, identified by Paul Feinbaum as the best quarterback since Tim Tebow.
It's definitely never happened before, right? That a quarterback is projected to go number 1 overall we really haven't seen yet. That's never happened, has it?
Projected number 1 overall coming into college and can't get on the field his first couple of seasons because the starter there is established. And I would say that Quinn Ewers was one of the name quarterbacks in the sport last year, top 5 names of who you'd want quarterbacking your team, and he couldn't beat him out.
I mean, I don't know about that, but we're also saying he couldn't get on the field, but that's because of where he chose to go. He could have gone to any school and been the starter had he wanted to.
FAU probably would have started.
He chose to go there knowing he probably wasn't going to start. Like, it was a decision that they consciously made.
Right, but Sarkisian decided that Quinn Ewers was the better option.
That's correct.
Like, he's trying to win a national championship, Sarkisian.
That's right.
And he decided Quinn Ewers.
He had a team that was points away from being as good as Ohio State last year, and he started the other guy. Jeremy has an assortment of loops that need to be closed on things we've been talking about. At the end of the hour, as part of our 20-year celebration, we're going to have a behind the bit. This one is going to be just doing sports trivia with my brother, Lebo. He was usually pretty terrible at it. I don't know that we will have a better moment involving him than the time that we asked him the most famous shortstop of the New York Yankees, and he said, I know this, Eric Jeter. I don't know that we will do a whole lot better than that.
I used to like the Mind Benders.
He would do mind benders. Would you rather would be another way of playing that game. Have any of you seen yet Friendship with Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson? Because it's great. It's funny. It's awkward. It's got 4 or 5 just quintessentially funny moments, including a spoiler alert with Paul Rudd that may in some ways remind you of Zaslow. I will tell you nothing else except this is the most that Paul Rudd in a movie has ever been like Zaslow. It is funny, though. It is awkward funny. I love the role for Paul Rudd, and I would recommend the movie to anyone who likes the skit show I Think You Should Leave, which I've told you before. My brother's widow, in a crowded place, I was recommending to her, I Think You Should Leave, and she kept getting hurt because she thought I was telling her to go. She didn't know. She was loud, and she didn't understand.
Who's on first situation?
Yeah, she didn't really understand. And
like, she just thought mid-conversation, you're telling her, I think you should leave?
I kept saying it louder because she couldn't hear me. I think you should leave. And so, yeah, she was a bit insulted by that. But I would recommend Friendship to anyone listening to this. But Tony mentioned something before we close those loops and before we get to Behind the Bit. Tony mentioned something during the break. He was ruminating about the worst things to step on. And I didn't hear any of his nominees, but the way that my mind works on word association, that's almost the first thing I think of when I think of Legos. Like, if you ask me to do word association on Legos, I'm going to end up in a video algorithm mentally of people stepping on Legos. I've seen videos of people running on a treadmill that's covered in Legos.
So you call it Lego, huh? That's how you say it, Lego?
Am I saying it incorrectly?
Well, I think it's Lego, right?
Legos.
It's a Lego.
Lego my ego.
That's a different thing.
But it's pronounced the same.
Yeah.
So you guys, I'm saying it wrong. Lego,
Now you put an accent on the O.
Lego.
That's maybe the French
It sounds
version.
like Jeremy's Let's Go. Let's go.
So, Dan, here's the thing. Obviously, you have your natural comedic things that you step on that are bad, a rake, banana peel, of those things. I was in my house a couple of days ago on Saturday.
You stepped on your child.
That would also be a bad thing to step on. But no, I did not step on her. So I was getting ready. Hoops on Saturday mornings. I wake up pretty early. I'm in the gym playing hoops by about 7:30, right? So it's kind of dark at the house. I wake up around 6:30, 6:45. I'm getting my stuff ready. I go out to the other bathroom that's across from where our room is. I had left something in there. I was getting ready. I take a step out of the bathroom. Still dark. I take a step out of the bathroom here. I'm like, what? I'm like, what was that? Barefoot, obviously. Just got out of bed. I look under what I stepped on. Somehow, some way, a cockroach was walking in the same way that I was turning the corner from the bathroom, and he was underneath, or her, or whomever,
she, yeah.
whatever, was underneath my foot as
The sound effect was perfect.
It was.
You made too.
I was like, what? It sounded almost like Billy's Onion Crunch. Like, that's what the sound was. And I felt like the juice of its guts. And I was like, what did I step on? I have no, like, at this point, I'm not thinking I stepped on a cockroach. I think I stepped on like a, I don't know, something for the baby, something like a diaper, like something that was weird. I looked down, dead cockroach on my, just like that. And I was just like, ugh. But the problem is I had to hop over because it was dark.
Yeah.
I had to hop over to where the light was to turn it on. Obviously, as you can see, my disgust, guts all over my foot. It was on a rug, so I had to sit there and clean it off the rug. It was terrible. So I submit that as the worst thing to step on. A live cockroach on my foot. Poor person, or cockroach, whatever, male or female, whatever it was, that was walking and decided to walk directly into my path.
Let's go! This story fell apart with the details. Once you threw in the rug, it wouldn't have made that sound.
What do you don't think that stepping on a cockroach on a rug?
No, the rug's
make
a silencer. No, if you had like the tile or the wooden floor, I believe the sound.
Billy
I'm
gets
starting to wonder now.
Okay.
Once a rug was involved, if this is real.
I want to bring a cockroach in here. You be barefoot. You step on it and see what sound
On
it
a
makes.
rug.
On a rug, it would be
On a
quiet.
rug. I'm telling
Wouldn't
you,
hear it.
the crunch is going to be the same.
Bug on a rug. Minor penalty, 2 minutes for lying.
It was filed by Billy on a Wild
I don't give a
Willy
sh- I don't give a
Wednesday.
what he says.
Okay,
You
but
think I'll kick his ass too?
The penalty has been called.
Fighting people.
You
You
have
keep
to
threatening to
leave,
fight people.
and then
Becoming a
don't
norm
fight
around
them.
here.
Then go to Vegas and don't fight them. Go. You got to go.
Wow.
Billy has made an accusation, and on
Well,
Wild.
Hold on, Judge Zaslow.
Judge Johnny.
Because is this America or is this not America, Jack?
It's not. Hold on.
I mean, is that what I'm judging? If this is America?
No, you're judging on what the guilty or not guilty
The
verdict
ruling
is.
has been made. We're not going to a judge. You've got to go.
Yeah, we don't use judges anymore.
It's gone. You have to go. And I'm sorry. It's Billy levying the accusation.
He's not the judge.
It's a Wild Willie Wednesday, and on Wild Willie Wednesday, he is the judge on this. And you have to go. You may not have been lying. The story is worse if it's on tile. I think all of us say that's worse to be stepping on a cockroach on tile than on a rug. And he has put enough skepticism around your story that I'm going to allow it.
It's actually preferred to step on tile. It's louder, to your point, on tile. It's an easier cleanup on tile. You don't want it in the carpet.
Rug cleanup's very difficult.
You gotta, like, the guts are getting in the carpet.
And if it was pregnant and there's babies in there, ooh,
whoa,
no.
that's dark.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have assumed that he could have killed it barefoot on a rug, given how difficult it is to just generally kill cockroaches. And also, I don't know if you guys know this. I didn't learn it until recently because I'm seeing a lot more cockroaches than I usually do. The heat brings them out, and I was not aware that the heat makes cockroaches be something that are going to be more on your radar than they usually are. And obviously, we're so swampy down here that the flying cockroach is simply not something that's everywhere in the United States, correct?
No, the palmetto bug? I don't think so. It's my worst nightmare. Like what Tony just described.
That can't be true.
It is
That's your
an
worst
actual nightmare. Well, okay.
It's
I live a charmed life.
It's unpleasant. A barefoot stepping on a cockroach is pretty unpleasant.
He definitely did it with the ball of his foot too, which is how you end up getting that crunch. And I think no, if you do right, it's not going to happen if the arch is there. And maybe it's the heel. Yeah. But my assumption is this is just a thin rug that he's talking about. I feel like we're all reacting to this like it's like shag carpeting, and that's not what's there. If you have a thin little rug that's there just for decoration, this can absolutely happen. I think we really did Tony a disservice.
I was waiting for a judgment, to be honest with you.
Wasn't necessary.
Zaz, you look flat-footed.
You do.
I feel like I could profile you as a flat-footed person.
I am.
I'm going to tell the rest of you a funny story that you will both.
You think that's something you could tell when you see somebody? Dude's flat-footed.
Yes. With you. Just
when you said it, I was like, checks out.
Is it on site too, or because you know him that you think that he's flat-footed?
I believe it's something about his face right now that makes it feel to me like he is flat-footed. But Tony mentioned In the Dark, and I will tell you guys a funny story that you will not be surprised by, but you will indeed find amusing. In the dark the other day, I'm going through my closet in total dark at 5:30 in the morning, trying not to wake up my wife. And I go and I get dressed and I do a full workout in the dark at 5:30 in the morning. And later in the morning, as I'm at the grocery store, I look down and realize I'm wearing two different sneakers because I grabbed them in the dark. And they were both. They both seemed like they were they were different shoes for different feet, but they seemed to be the same shade of color. One of them was white though, and one of them was like a light beige. And so I'm wearing two different.
I wonder
sneakers.
if anyone saw you at the store and were like, "Man, these rich people are so stylish."
What did David Beckham say?
I did think to myself, I see a day where kids do this on purpose as
They
a
sell
fashion,
shoes.
as
They
a
sell them
fashion
like that.
statement.
Yeah, they sell shoes that are different colors.
NBA players do it.
Yeah, we're here.
They will wear different colorways of the same brand of shoe just to match the couple of different colors on their uniform.
I thought about doing that because I bought two pairs of the exact same shoe style.
I do that all the time.
And I thought about, like, what if I wear one of these blue ones and one of these orange ones? But I knew that if I did it here, people would just make fun of me and bully me, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, we can't make choices that are out there here.
Hey, Tony.
I tucked in my shirt the other day, and everybody made fun of me. That's all I did.
Yeah,
just
you
tuck
look
in
like
a shirt.
Dork was an odd look.
Man, see?
One of the things that came up yesterday that I look forward to talking to Ron McGill about is that I believe that Billy and the rest of you have not been listening to Ron McGill. And so when he speaks of the Everglades, I believe that you guys do not have the same respect for the different kind of wildlife that there is in the Everglades, different than the rest of the United States, and how unusual it is, if you're not used to something like the Everglades, to find the kind of animals that there are in the Everglades. But I was legitimately surprised, though I should not have been, when earlier today, Chris Cody said out loud, "What is Alligator Alcatraz?" And before I answer the question, because it was quite the public display of politics that went on in South Florida yesterday by going to the Everglades and celebrating the idea that there is a prison surrounded by alligators. What did you imagine that it was when you heard the phrase for the first time without knowing Alligator Alcatraz?
Well, I had heard weeks ago that Trump had been talking about bringing Alcatraz back, so I'm thinking maybe he pitched an idea of, we're going to put a moat around it. No one's going to be able to get there. There's going to be alligators protecting Alcatraz. I know it's an island, but we'll put a little land, so there's a moat. We need a moat, and we're going to have dangerous alligators, the biggest alligators you've ever seen. They'll bite your hand off. I've seen them do it 3 times.
The best.
That's what I thought. I thought it would be alligators patrolling Alcatraz. Am I wrong?
That's not an AI image that we created. That's an AI image that the White House tweeted out themselves.
Oh, so I'm right.
AI images are the aesthetic of fascism.
So what is this? Tell me. Teach me.
Well, did you see any of the coverage
I saw it.
yesterday? Okay, so you've since
I know.
You have since learned what it is, but when you asked the question, you did not know what Alligator Alcatraz was. For the record, what do you know about Alcatraz itself?
I've been to Alcatraz. I've done the tour. I've done put the headphones on. It's pretty cool, actually. One of the cooler tours I think I've done in my life. Go ahead, Billy. I see the face.
No,
I see
I'm just here. I'm just here. I'll listen to you. I believe you were there.
You don't believe I was there?
No, I do. I just said I believe you were there. You did. You put the headphones.
But you did make a face, and he noticed the face, and he's not
guys,
wrong.
I just don't obsess over me. I just have faces sometimes. It's okay. I can sit here.
Does he get thrown out for lying or no? Just because Billy said so?
An accusation hasn't been made.
Sure.
Hold on a second. I did not kick you
No,
out.
I know.
or ask
That's
you
to
to get kicked
Dan.
out. Don't blame
that has
me
nothing to
for
do with
this.
you. I'm asking Dan.
I'm just.
What is the lie that I'm kicking him out for? That he has faces?
He hasn't been to Alcatraz. I don't know.
Okay, so if you don't know the accusation you're making, why are you? You know what? You can get out again for just
That's
doing.
crazy.
Rough week for Tony. Can I go with him just for moral support?
Boring.
I feel bad for him. I'm gonna go with him just to make sure. It used to be mental health awareness month, and this month we're getting out hot. I know we're getting hot.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes
abusing
for adding
mental
nothing.
health here. Hold on.
May was mental health.
I think it's always a good month to be mindful of your mental
Weren't you
health, and
leaving?
I'm just gonna
Weren't you
say
leaving?
that.
You were leaving, right? You volunteered to leave, and then you decided to stay, like a bad lingering smell in a bathroom. Because you said you were leaving, and I gave you the option to leave, and then you decided to stay because you didn't like that we just did what you wanted to do, and so you changed it.
He also left the door wide open, so now we're going to hear the murmuring from the other room.
I think Alligator Alcatraz totally sounds like there's a moat around the prison.
Thank you!
Like you had those escapees in
There
New
is.
Orleans. Like, they wouldn't have escaped if there was a moat with alligators
Go
outside
on.
the prison. I'm with Chris. That's what I thought of when I first heard about
This
it.
is just like yesterday when we went from the Damian Lillard conversation straight to the Atlanta Hawks. It's like, it's wild that we're skipping past what this thing is to be like, but what if we put a moat around a prison?
Tell the people what it is, for the people that don't.
It's our first sponsored work camp.
They don't have to worry about anything, though. Look at them. Chris and Zaslow will never have to worry about being put in an alligator Alcatraz because these are not the kinds of people that those alligators eat. Congratulations to Zaslow and Chris for being
Zaslow might be eventually. That's normally what happens.
for being pink.
I'm good, though.
Yeah, Chris, you're good. You're the only one.
It is true what he's saying, though. The flippant sort of alligator Alcatraz should be mortifying. The idea of flying in politicians to go to that place on the outskirts of civilization to make sure that everyone knows that others will be surrounded by alligators there. I believe that what is happening right now in the other room with Lewis and Billy and Tony and Chris over here has smiles on it that shouldn't be around the phrase Alligator Alcatraz. I believe that, look at him. Now they're afraid to smile. Now Billy's afraid to smile, even though
Tony's not afraid.
He's surrounded by alligators with ice hats that were sent out by the White House. Yeah, I don't know what to do with it other than make fun of it, because the other thing to do with it is just sort of, cry horrified at, we had a hell of a run, America, at being America.
It was pretty fun. But now, yesterday at the fun demonstration with merch and tours of the barracks of which these people will be stored in.
There was merch?
Oh, yeah. They have hats that say Alcatraz on them with little animated gators on top that they gave out to people. And on top of that, then Trump just decided to say, hey, by the way, we got a lot of bad people, many of them born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here, too. So, he said, maybe we'll try that next. So the thing we've been saying about, throwing people in work camps and such.
Yeah,
it's happening.
It's early in the administration, so you have more fun like that to look forward to. Can you tie up some of the show loose ends here before we get to Behind the Bit and before it is that Billy and Tony and everyone thunder back in here to ruin the rest of today?
So we were looking at the conversation about Arch Manning. Has there ever been a player that hasn't played quite yet to be projected to go number 1 overall? No, but the closest thing I could find, Eric Swan was a player who never actually played college football because he was academically ineligible the entire time. He was still drafted 6th overall. We asked about direct deposits and when those were invented. That happened in the 70s, so it's surprising that Ricky Henderson couldn't have done that himself or anyone else. We were talking about blackout policies. When it comes to the NFL, 75 miles away from the city of origin of the team is where you can get to where the blackout no longer applies.
So Orlando unnecessary.
Okay, but where was I going to stop 75 miles out? Am I just knocking on somebody's door? Hey, I'm here to watch the Dolphins.
A bar.
Zaslow was right. Tim Legler is one of 5 players on 3 3-point attempts or more to shoot over 50% from 3. He and Jason Capono are the only players to play more than 10 games in a season and do so. Wow. Just Tim Legler and Jason Capono playing 77 and 67 games respectively. The Heat have the second longest NBA sellout streak actively, the 4th all time. The number 1 active is the Dallas Mavericks' 957 sellouts starting December 15th, 2001. And a nomination for a cumbersome nickname, Oscar Pistorius, the fastest man on no legs.
That's how it's done, Jeremy. That's how you use Jeremy. Good job out of you.
It was a good
we need to
update.
keep talking.
Yes,
imaging.
It was a good update. Yes, because I like that there were so many loops closed there. I guess I have to say that Capono is a better shooter than Duncan Robinson, right? Don't I have to say that? Mathematically, there's no argument that Jason Capono is a better shooter than Duncan Robinson, no?
Volume normally affects percentage.
Yeah,
and so if you're only doing a couple per game and you're probably pretty open considering the team that you were playing on, a little different. They ran offense through Duncan for a good portion of this career, but 50% from 3 is insane.
I'd rather a guy who goes 4 for 10 than a guy who goes 1 for 2.
He averaged less than 2 shots one of those seasons.
Right.
When are the Heat running their offense through Duncan?
Oh man, the dribble handoffs with Bam, especially in 2020, that was a gigantic chunk of their offense. It was bring in Duncan Robinson, run him around, and just try to get him open for several minutes at a time, including playoff games.
He runs around a lot.
It was just getting him open and getting him shots, 5 or 6 shots on 5 or 6 possessions in a row.
I feel like, I don't know, I hope it starts to get a little bit of notice now that he's no longer on the team, but man, he's really one of the all-time great Heat players. He was here for 7.
Whoa.
Well, just think about the context. 7 years. That's a long time in the end. Like, he was here a lot longer than LeBron was, right? 7 years he was with the Heat. He's the all-time leader in 3-pointers. He's unquestionably the second greatest undrafted player in the history of the franchise, only behind Udonis Haslem. Played in huge games, 2 NBA Finals.
Big miss there against the Celtics.
I mean, he really is one of the all-time great Miami Heat players.
Are you hurt by this? Do you develop an emotional attachment to Duncan Robinson with the Miami Heat?
I usually am hurt by stuff like this when we lose players. I do get way too emotional. I don't want to trade anybody to get another guy. I want to keep everybody. I'd be a terrible general manager. I don't feel that emotion right now. And I think it's just because, man, we've been down the last couple years. Something's got to change. We got to get something new here. So I'm not emotional about losing him.
Speaking of something new, would you do me the favor, please, of looking up the year that Eric Swan was drafted? Because
1991.
I want to put in front of you guys in 2025 the idea of, hey, there's a giant guy, and he's going to be drafted in the top 6. And get this, straight out of high school. No college play. He's going to be a top 6 NFL draft pick, but his past is he's just a menacing guy that's so strong that he's projected very high, even though he didn't play in college. And he's not a college-age freshman, but didn't play in college, so he's coming out of high school, essentially, even though he's in his early 20s.
He also played semi-professional football for the Bay State Titans. So whatever that is, that guy gets drafted 6th overall.
How strong does that human being have to be? Now, again, it's 30 years ago, so it's a different time in the NFL draft. But if that happened today, where you had a guy that I was telling you, you're not going to believe this. Listen to this. He's so strong, he's going to be in the top 6, but didn't play in college.
No GM would have the guts to draft that guy.
He
today.
made $5 per hour as his salary for the Bay State Titans.
Bay. What was his professional career? Because he didn't amount to much. He was a defensive tackle, but I do believe that he did play in the league for a while, and he wasn't useless. And I don't think of him as being associated with the word bust, even though he probably was a bust if he's going top 6. And wouldn't be having much of a career.
He was an All-Pro. 1995 and 1996, he was an All-Pro and selected to the Pro Bowl team. He signed a 5-year, $25 million contract with a $7.5 million signing bonus in 98. But he ended up getting hurt, knee injuries. But he played from 1991 to 2000, which is a really long career.
So not a bust, but none of you had heard of Eric Swan or Eric Swan's story as an NFL top 6 draft pick who didn't end up going to college. There aren't going to be too many examples of that, I would imagine.
You remember the guy from Baylor a couple of years ago that was like way bigger than everybody else, where he would stand on the coin flip and he was just like massive and had like these huge abs? That's the guy you could have told me. He straight out of high school would be like, sign him. I don't know what he is, sign him.
That photo is so memorable that I remember exactly what you're talking about. We're going to find it in a second. And it was a coin toss of a guy that, based on looking at him, you would have simply said, of course, that person is great at football. But I don't think that person was even a pro, was he? Good God. I do not remember his name, but I don't believe that he ever played professionally, even though no one has ever looked as good in a Baylor uniform as this guy coming out for the coin flip.
Pretty sure, just think about Baylor for a second. That is maybe part of why he didn't play.
RG3 went to Baylor. He won a Heisman.
That's not what I'm talking about. Neither of you helpful at all. With
Okay,
what
sexual
it is that
assault.
I was doing. Neither of you at all helpful.
His name's Sean Oakman. He played for the Alouettes.
Okay, so he played in the CFL.
The Elks, the Argonauts, the Aces, the Wildcats, the Rough Riders, the Bucks, and the Torch.
So didn't play an NFL down. Did not play. That human being who, I mean, the reaction from everybody was to see that photograph and gasp at what is one supposed to do about blocking that? Well, the answer is everyone in the pros could block that because that
and the CFL.
Everyone in this country who played professional football could block that. Evidently, though, it had to go to Canada in order to play professionally.
It also feels like Derrick Henry was one of those guys, too, when he came out of high school where he had like 1,000 rushing touchdowns in high school. It felt like he could have been a guy that could play in the NFL right away, too.
Imagine going to 6th period and then you have to go play football against Derrick Henry.
Tackle this guy. You're like, whoa, whose dad is that?
What the hell?
I have friends who were at Columbus who one time went to play Immokalee and Edgerrin James was in the backfield, and they're just my small Cuban friends. And they're like, what are we supposed to? I don't know. At that point, Edgerrin James was that muscular simply because he was physically unloading trucks that had produce in them as a high school kid. Didn't even lift weights, was just someone who was unbelievably strong because he was working on trucks since he was 12 years old.
I just love learning about Dan's different groups of friends. We have his math friends and his small Cuban friends.
Studying for your math test. Now go tackle Edgerrin James.
Well, the Edgerrin James story that is best there, the Columbus High School friend story that is best, Edgerrin James is second. The first story there is that same friend at his birthday party. We put on all the televisions, Udonis Haslem in high school dunking and the ball going through the rim and hitting him in the forehead as he was late on the fast break.
He's trying to run back because the coach is watching him, and then the dunk goes
through and we just put it on a loop on all the televisions. The ball going through the hoop as it's being dunked at Miami High, and it bouncing off my friend Paul's forehead and going into the stands because they were. And by the way, Udonis Haslem at that point was playing for Miami High, but lived in Miramar, like was nowhere near where the state champions were.
Don't worry about that.
The district lines did not apply to however it is that Frank Martin got Udonis Haslem to go.
Got a lot of guys to go to Miami High, by the way.
Miami
Well,
High.
they did have those banners removed. Like, they got them taken away.
Steve Blakely by Killian, who's going to Miami High.
Yep.
I want you to imagine my friend's face when he walked into his birthday party.
Small
and on
Cuban friend.
All the televisions is the basketball going through the basket and hitting him in the forehead and bouncing into the stands.
Happy birthday.
That's got to be worse than getting dunked on, right? Is the byproduct of getting dunked on and then hitting the ball against your forehead so hard that it goes into the stands.
Look, if I could have made it a poster, I would have. If I could have had him posterized at the time, if I had the technology, right, to just put a poster in his room of the ball going through
the trajectory of the
basket.
ball.
Look, he dunked with such ferocity. All right, we were down by 40. It was all of us for the Miami Herald High School Sports Show. We're playing against Udonis Haslem, and that wasn't even the best dunk.
This is Behind the Bit. This is Behind the Bit. This is Behind the Bit.
We take you back to a better time in the show's history, a time, at least for me, where I was happiest because we were at ESPN.
It is now time to chat with my favorite, more talented son, Lebo. Aside from being a world-famous artist,
Check it out at LeboArt.com.
he has also never willingly attended a sporting event. Let's test Lebo's sports knowledge.
Again, LeboArt.com is where you go, and we have some questions here for Lebo. He knows very little.
The game just makes me happy. It does.
It does. It has made you happy. It has made you happy for years. And keep in mind, my brother doesn't have time for this nonsense that we have to do around here. So we are grateful for his time today. Dave, who is Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow. With the preface of that I know very little, I guess that's doesn't have that much expectation to it. Joe Burrow is a professional football coach.
Good guess.
Yeah. Actually, an amateur football player.
But close, in the realm. It seems it's like
to be a professional.
It's a bit of a moral victory for Lebo.
Good coach's name, though, Joe Burrow.
It is.
Yes.
It is a good name. What is the name of the NBA team in Milwaukee?
The Brewers.
I mean, close, right? I mean,
the Brew
close.
Crew.
It's a 2.5 points.
He had something. He had something there. Can you name an SEC football team?
An SEC? I can't. An SEC football team. The Cobras.
He looked at me like, "What is the SEC?"
A good guess.
The Auburn Cobras.
The Cobras is a good guess.
War Cobras.
Whoa. What sport does Ed Orgeron coach?
Hockey.
Very aggressive and confident.
It's a French name.
It's a French name. It's a good guess. It's a good reason for the guess.
Yeah, he's with the Nordiques.
What team does LeBron James play for?
Cleveland.
You're stacking up the partial points.
Yes, good
partial points.
The man that knows nothing.
Give any last name of an athlete who has the first name of Cam.
I know this one, actually. You guys, Newton.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Dan, can you tell us how this bit came to be?
My brother was always looking for ways for me to take more chances and was trying to teach me that it was okay to show your ass and be vulnerable. And so he was always somebody who was wondering why it is that I wasn't pushing the boundaries more. And so he was trying to encourage me to do that in a way that was funny and exposed him into looking like a fool and just to embrace the idea of being a fool.
I'm still shocked he knew the Brewers. Like,
anytime
he got the answer wrong, but at least he was a baseball team in Milwaukee.
The guesses were exceptional.
Yes.
The one that I remember the most when I think of these with my brother is how excited he was because he thought he knew one. Right? He's like, the question was who was the shortstop for the New York Yankees, and he was all excited, like, I know this one. Eric Jeter.
It was interesting hearing Lebo's voice there. Lebo's Dan's at the time way more famous brother, way more successful brother, a great painter and a really great friend of mine.
I love this segment so much because I remember thinking to myself a couple of things. One, Lebo got so excited when he got one right. He was so happy when he would guess and get one right. But I remember thinking to myself, Lebo is doing something so cool, unique, and different with his life. And we're sitting at a table talking about Eric Jeter.
That's right. That is correct. That's right. Boldly creative while we sit in a cramped studio filled with colorful regret. Colorful only because he put it there.
The coolest stuff in that studio.
All of it. Right. He's the coolest thing in that studio, and he made all of the coolest things in that studio.
It was kind of conceived by Dan. Hey, my brother knows nothing about sports. Can we use that? How can we make this a character on this show? Because Dan's family life has always been canon on our show. So I enjoyed the challenge of crafting an entertaining segment around a man who's never willingly attended a sporting event.
Do you have a favorite Lebo moment on the show?
Quite honestly, I think it's the fun that we had around that. There were plenty of activations that we had where he would be painting Roy or be painting someone else in the show. But anytime we had him in studio, even if he was there to do something else, we always took the opportunity to kind of quiz his sports knowledge. Professionally, those are some of my fondest memories of Lebo.
They absolutely had fun doing this bit. When we were local, he used to do it on the phone, so he called in and it was great. But the other thing was, like, he also used to do this bit called the Mind Bender, where he would come up with riddle or situations. What would you do in this particular situation? That was fun. He came in and he did artwork. He did artwork of me wearing nothing.
My brother has arrived to do an artist's rendering of Roy very expensively. Sarah Spain, this really backfired on Sarah Spain.
Roy is ripped, man.
Have that painting still?
No, it was auctioned.
Oh, it was
auctioned? It was auctioned. It's hanging in somebody's bedroom right now.
How do you feel about that?
What am I gonna do? I mean, it made money, so hooray.
He became a character when we were audio only, and I believe we were doing Man Who's Never Willingly Attended a Sporting Event and Mind Benders. That was another thing where Lebo would create these Mind Bender type questions.
And now it's time for Lebo's Mind Bender. The Mind Bender.
Really? Like, that's what we do on the imaging?
Well, we made the Mind Bender opening when we cared about the show.
Yeah, when people tried. When people tried on the production elements of this show. Overdone though they may be. What do you have for us, Lebo?
Well, I'm going to start off with what could be the most minimal mind bender to date. And that is, would you rather be a cat or a dog?
Wow.
Really? Wow. Really?
Yeah,
was this
big one.
approved? Was this?
Well, my wow was at the lack of thought Lebo gave to the Mindbender today.
Well, I mean,
Big one.
jeez.
Was this approved? As if there's a committee.
But there's got to be a screening process. There has to be.
Well, because, Dave, I mean, last time I think you threw up a couple of duds and we said, hey, you got to come stronger next time. And you promised us you would. And it's
really?
Mike
and I worked on these. Would you rather be a cat or a dog? I don't know. Cats are self-sufficient. Dogs are really taken care of. What? I'd rather be a dog. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, let's go. Let's move on to the next one. Let's just move on to the next one.
I go dog, Lebo.
Okay. Jeez.
Well, how about Lebo? Hold on. What would you rather be, a cat or a dog?
Stop.
I don't want to be anything now. I want to be off the phone.
Dan, do you think your brother knew more about sports than you know about art?
He and I would have no chance on an art show where they're asking
Speak for
us,
yourself, I mean.
yes, who was the abstract artist. I imagine
Picasso?
asking him a bunch of questions about Jackson Pollock. Go ahead, imagine
that?
it. Yes,
Good tight end.
that is a good name for a tight end. Jackson Pollock. I would take him in my fantasy league just by name.
First round.
Do you remember when Lebo's art got involved with the show?
Art became a character on the show once we became visual. Once we started showing up on Fusion and had the visual component to play with, it was easy to say who was going to be shaping the artistic direction of our show and templating that for future use.
What was your relationship with Lebo like?
We were really tight. Like, you asked me what my favorite moments were Lebo were, and they weren't ever really in show. It was more hanging out with Lebo. Lebo was a really good ally for me early on as I struggled with the enormity of the executive producer role. Lebo, in many ways, trusted me more than Dan did and saw that. My favorite moment ever with Lebo, though, was he and I went to a Limp Bizkit concert together. And Lebo was quite the character.
What was that Limp Bizkit concert like?
It was a Limp Bizkit concert before it became ironic and fun. It was like during the doldrum, where they were playing club gigs unironically. So it was great. I really miss him.
Rest in power, Lebo. Miss you, brother.
All right, let's do some post-game show here. Let's bring Juju aboard. Hello, Juju. How you doing today?
All right, my brother. Luscious. The hair is looking luscious today. I don't know what you got going on or what the program is.
Feeling
but
confident,
I am
player.
loving it, brother.
Feeling confidence
Yes,
over
sir.
here. That's how it goes, man. Speaking of confidence, so I know you're keeping track of everything going on. NBA free agency. We didn't do a ton of that today, so it's a good opportunity to discuss it with you. Eastern Conference. Who's making moves right now? Who are you happy with?
Man, with my Celtics dumping like none other right now, we signing Peter and Paul these days. I don't know what's going on. I think the New York Knickerbockers might be in position to be the best Eastern team next year. They signed Yabusele, who had the Olympic dunk over LeBron, and they signed Jordan Clarkson to add to the roster they had already. Could you imagine if they only had a coach? You feel me?
Tony, you're
I think they're going to make
I,
noise.
I am poo-pooing this, and Juju's my brother, and we have a lot of good basketball conversations. I think the answer is over his left shoulder. Again, different team, but in the same city. Atlanta Hawks did a lot of great things in a very weak Eastern Conference. To me, it feels like the Hawks might be the best team in the East, and they haven't played together with all of these different pieces. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, Trae Young, Jalen Johnson coming back next year. Reese Shea came online last year pretty good towards the end. Porzingis, Okongwu, like they've got players on that team, Ju.
Yeah, you're right. I can't argue with that. My only argument against that is when you live in Atlanta, you always expect something to go wrong. They could have LeBron and everybody, but something is going to go wrong. I don't know. I'm not predicting it. I don't want to put that on wax, but you're right. Atlanta looks great on paper with Porzingis, but it's Atlanta Hawks.
I know, but on paper, that's what we're playing in July, right? We don't play on wood.
Oh, yeah.
We play on paper right now. And it feels like the
Right.
Hawks are really good. Zaz, I don't know if you saw something in the Eastern Conference better than what the Hawks have done.
No, I like what the Hawks are doing. Porzingis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they're going for it. I mean, I can't say as much about the Heat. I know everybody loves what the Hawks are doing right now. I think so far, except for the obvious one, which is Kevin Durant going to Houston, I really like what the Nuggets have done, all right?
Big plays
They
for
bring
the
back Bruce
Yeah.
Brown, who killed the Heat in the finals in 23. Michael Porter Jr. stinks. Cam Johnson is a nice player. I like Cam Johnson over Michael Porter Jr. They also brought in some shooting with Tim Hardaway Jr. So, Juju, I love what the Nuggets have done. I know it's the West, but I like what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you say, MPJ gave them nothing in the playoffs. Russell Westbrook was the Super Mario question mark. What you going to get from him? Are you going to get a turtle shell or are you going to get invincible, man? So, yeah, with them adding those core players to put beside the Joker, barring injury, dare I say, they might be the ones coming out of the West next year.
And what I like, too, is that they were able to get underneath the tax. They were worried about that, and I think that's where Kroenke was like, yeah, we might have to trade 15 at some point if the tax gets to that level, when now it's not. They also get Jonas Valanciunas, who's going to be a big get for them on a center, where you don't have those non-Jokic minutes were so tough for them down the stretch that it's like, how do we get another center to still play big? Jonas Valanciunas is that guy. Timmy Hardaway giving them shooting. Excuse me. It feels like they let go of Michael Porter Jr. and brought in 3 or 4 guys to replace them, and hopefully their young guys step up. But this is like a really good core of veterans that can play in playoff games.
Juju, what did you make of Sophie Cunningham yesterday in the WNBA? Very critical about the cities that they're choosing to expand WNBA in. I feel like. That league is weird sometimes, man. I've never heard a player in one of our major sports who talks about there shouldn't be teams in specific cities.
Yeah, I think she needs to do her history, do her Googles, because the last couple of sellouts, the best attendance record ever in the WNBA came from the Detroit Shockers. And I think that, moving forward, I don't see why that city wouldn't clamor for another team. They don't necessarily have a lot going on. You see the Pistons are always selling out. You feel me? So I think that some of the new players, this like sometimes we got to do our histories on hip hop and the Beach Boys and see what they actually meant to the people. I think that the Detroit will be a great addition to the people. Now, I think they will definitely sell out.
Juju, what do you make of Coco Gauff yesterday?
Oh, man. Before we move to Coco Gauff, that's a great transition. I got to give some credit, though, to Sophie Cunningham and those Indiana Fever. They won the Commissioner's Cup last night without Caitlin Clark. Tough day for the Angel Reese and the Indiana Fever are nothing without Caitlin Clark haters. Like, the Natasha Howard MVP stepped up 16 big points, 12 rebounds. Aaliyah Boston, 12 points, a couple of 13, 14 rebounds. But one of the biggest midseason acquisitions that's flying under the radar, Aari McDonald, dog. Aari McDonald has came into that team and has been the leader, like stepped in for Caitlin, distributing what Tyrese Halliburton is for the Pacers. Aari has stepped into that role, and they got a big dub last night against the pretty much the favorites to win the championship this year, the Minnesota Lynx. Terrible night for Lil Feezy, Nafisa Collier. I think she went like what was the stats? 6 for 18 last night. Kayla McBride, 1 for 7. The bridge is over, 0 points. Bridget Carlson. Oh, man, but great win for the Indiana Fever last night. Commissioner Cup champs.
Give me some thoughts here on Coco. What happened to her?
Yeah, man. I mean, we praise Coco when she do good, so we got to talk about her blunder yesterday at Wimbledon. Maybe she was just riding that championship high. I'm not sure. But she went out in the first round yesterday in Wimbledon against, I got to read her name, Diana Yastremska.
Nailed it.
Never heard of her. But now she put her name on the map and beat the number 2 player in the world in Coco Gauff. And Wimbledon shaping up to be an interesting one on that women's side.
Jeremy, you got a stat of the day for us here?
Ooh, I do.
Start of the day, this year's start of the day. Start of the day, this year's start of the day. Start of the day, this year's start of the day. Start of the day, this year's start of the day.
Stat of the day brought to you by Miller Lite.
On June 29th, an MLB player became the 9th player ever to be intentionally walked 4 times in one game.
Whoa.
Barry Bonds did that 4 times in his career.
Yeah.
This is the first time since Barry Bonds. Any of you want to guess who the player was?
Man. Yes, it was a man. I have no idea.
One of the Negroes.
James Wood of the Washington Nationals,
I don't
who
know
is
that
having
fool.
a remarkable season for the Nationals. He is an unbelievable hitter, and he's being treated as such. Intentionally walked 4 times in one game.
Who's batting after him? That must be a bad hitter.
Now
They're not a very good team.
Was he intentionally walked it all with the bases loaded like Bonds used to get?
I do not believe that happened in this game, but I will go back and check each of these at-bats, and by the end of this post-game show, I will have
Has
that
there
for
ever
you.
been more of a sign of respect than walking a hitter when the bases are loaded?
Right. Ultimate respect.
Juju.
That's the ultimate respect.
You got some polls for us? Let's update the polls for today, Juju. Come on.
Oh, man, I got some polls, but I got one thing to get off my chest. Love Island. Oh, my damn. Last night was one of the greatest shows in Love Island this season. It showed the true colors of Shelly. Olandria showed her ass, and Sierra out of nowhere. Like, come on. I want to give them the goofy of the day. Sierra, Olandria, and Shelly. You guys are the goofballs of the day for your opinions in that truth ceremony last night. Totally uncalled for, ganging up on my sister Huda. What else can she do? She's sorry. Neither here nor there.
Ace had a rough night too, Juju. Poor Ace. He was going after people left and right for some reason. And Amaya has become America's sweetheart now just because of the pounding she was taking yesterday.
Hey, yo,
what? Austin, right? Because Austin showed up out of nowhere. Austin was all quiet whenever he was with her. Right. Now you want to get in front of everybody and voice your griefs with Amaya. How about be a man and tell her how you felt when you was in a couple with her? That was totally lowball from him.
Big night for Chris, though. Chris really stepped up yesterday.
Yes, sir, he did.
Chris and the other guy who we forgot, I think his name's Brian, that was with Andreina, but no one talks about him. Or he went and defended Amaya.
Billy,
saying,
I'm
hey,
late. I'm late I'm late to this Love Island game, but you've said that the games are useless, and I disagree. They are not useless. It's for you to make out with somebody that you've been wanting to make out with when you're in a couple.
No, but there's no winners or losers. Like, there's point systems and whatever, but there's no prize.
But a lot of drama comes from it. Like, because you guys are always saying, I skip through the games. Like, no, you got to watch these games.
No one skips through the games.
I think Rose said that she skips. Ridiculous. It's like, no, you don't skip through the game. You see who's making out with who.
No, yesterday's game was seriously just here's a piece of paper, anonymously talk shit about people, and then make them stand in front of everyone and read it out loud. And then maybe you'll claim it, maybe you won't. But then other people will jump in and just start piling on and gaslight and scream at people and tell them what pieces of crap they are. Yesterday was like the most toxic episode. I don't like call things like toxic often, but like yesterday was like the most, let's just be all terrible people to each other for no reason.
Right, bro. And salute to my brother Pepe, because he turned down old girl Audrina. He kept it real and turned down the pretty much one of the bombshells. So salute to Pepe for keeping it real, telling his new girl that it may not be working because he still got his heart on Hannah, but he could have said it a little earlier before the challenge. Neither here nor there.
Can I ask you a question about Pepe from last night? So last night they wrote anonymous like notes to each other, and the point was to kind of like clear the air, I guess, but it was really just to get everyone to fight. I think that Pepe wrote a note to himself asking himself to break up with the girl publicly because no one was going to do it. Because we never got to the bottom of who wrote the letter. He's like, you got to choose, Pepe. Do you still like the other girl? He's like, I do. It's like, I think you wrote this to yourself as a cop-out.
Bruh, I think that is a Duque bomb because I ain't even think of it from that.
Pepe was trying to find a way out of that, and I think he gave it to himself.
Right. And he did not have accountability. Speaking of accountability, I'm going to give a little unsolicited advice to my brother Tony. You got to stop saying you're going to kick everyone's ass in the building, because can you imagine if I said that the Miami PD will be called expeditiously? Neither here nor there. First poll, best heat shooter of all time, Duncan Robinson or Ray Allen? 79% of the audience says Ray Allen.
Wow.
Obvious.
All right.
Can you leave a funeral blasting loud music? 57% of the audience says, no, you cannot.
Who are the 43% that think it's okay?
Partiers, that's who they are.
Man, I just did something really sad. Can I not make myself feel a little better on the way out?
Can we wait till we pull out of the funeral home?
That's fair.
Right. Maybe you can blast Boys to Men, something like that, end of the road. But yeah, Beach Boys seems a bit on the line.
That's kind of inappropriate too. Just blast an end of the road. Someone just died.
I feel like, Zaz, you would appreciate me blasting a Pearl Jam if you died.
Well, yeah, because I think just everybody knows, oh, man, Zaslow would totally approve of this. So I think that's all right.
Would you be embarrassed if you had to call your mother-in-law to fix your flat tire?
Oh, man.
94% of the audience says yes, they would.
Yeah, that's a disgrace if you got to do that.
Are you grotesquely fascinated by the 2025 Dolphins? 73% of the audience says no, they are not. Is every player in basketball a free agent while under contract? 88% of the audience says yes, they are. Do you assume that Manny Ramirez will still be in a batting cage at 100 years old? 89% of the audience says yes, he will be. Should Mission Impossible be called Mission Kinda Impossible? 88% of the audience says yes, it should. Is the best thing in the world opening a can of Pringles and discovering that none of them have been broken? 78% of the audience says yes, it is. And the last poll, when Zaslow speaks, does it rattle around in your brain? 65% of the audience says yes, it does. And those are your polls.
Good job, Juju.
Thank you, guys.